validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. I got to tell you, Steven, I had to double check. I had more than one show set for the day. I was like, what's going on? Almost started the wrong damn show. So we got the right show together. Today we're going to be covering Canada. So while I say all the time, we do not let the show, we do not let the sun rise without going live, but we do not always start on time. He said, my shop changed the Wi-Fi password. How long until I get slowed down on the mobile data? Well, your mobile data, depending on how your phone operates, your mobile data should run you about 100 gigs before it starts slowing down. Now, I don't think it's going to really do anything about stalling out your streaming data, but as far as live streams are concerned, it's going to fucking suck. You can operate on like 300 or 400 kilobytes per second of slowed down data and still be able to see your podcast without a problem. You might not be able to multitask and play video games at the same time anymore, but you would be able to still catch the show. But today's show is for you. So you were asking about Canada. You're planning on going out there. I'm going to make sure I get you all the information that you need to be successful as one of our loyal members of the membership. So before we get started, since I haven't gotten any uh, enticing news, I did get some follow-ups, but I'm going to be presenting some of that stuff about the car stuff for next week's show, and then we're going to be dealing with some other stuff that I found. Depending on how thick the car show is, I might incorporate all of it into the same day, so that we have us a full day of discussion, so that we can also stay up to speed about the things that are negatively impacting our ability to make, save, and invest money on Mondays, which is one of the things that we talk about. I want to make sure that you guys are well prepared and in the time of fashion. After Mondays, we talk about on Tuesdays, we talk about different ways to make money, save money, invest money, budget money. And that's why yesterday we did a little bit of a back understanding to start thinking about not actual passive income, but the four different pillars of leveraged income. And leveraged income is either leveraging your time and your effort, your knowledge, your skill set, or leveraging your capital. So we wanted to make sure that you guys know the difference, because truly passive income doesn't exist, because passive income is income that comes to you that gets spent without you having to do anything about it. Ironically, a trust would truly be passive if a trust was set up by your ancestors and you were added to it without your involvement, and now you're benefiting from it. That would be passive. The trust would give you money, you would spend the money, you did nothing to earn the money. That's passive. Inheritance, that's passive. You know, the most effort you put into it was showing up to the will so that you could identify yourself in order to collect the assets. And now you're able to spend them. That's passive. You know, or the closest thing to passive, because there was a little bit of residual effort in there for to collect your money from the inheritance, because you had to prove who you were to get the stuff, but you didn't have to build the assets, and the assets will continue to come to you until you've used them all, right? Understanding that, when we cover other areas of investing and savings and building your wealth, and other quick ways to start up different businesses, uh, because there's only so many things that you can do through the computer and in person and everything to that effect. And then after that, you've got to double back and talk about these things again and remind y'all, hey, this stuff is still out here. So that's what we're going to be ending up doing, is reminding you guys different ways to make, save, and invest money, different ways to build your money up on Tuesdays, different ways to budget your money, which means we're going to have to come back around and talk about budgeting, a concept coming soon, but then also talk about those side jobs and side hustles that y'all aren't doing that y'all could be doing to make yourselves more financially successful. Now, after that, Wednesdays today, we talk about different countries around the world. We're talking about Canada for Stephen, but we have different countries on the list. We have a bunch of different countries on the list. And I've got to start moving some countries around. There's so many countries on the list to make sure that you guys have all the countries that you need to be successful. Um, then beyond that, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we give you guys information about self-improvement, self-development, relationship topics, negotiations, socialization, building, and then discussions about uh, raises, promotions, retirements. And this week, we also have a little bit more information about in-depth how to discuss termination. Um, because not all the time is it your fault, but sometimes it is. And when your boss doesn't want you there anymore, there is a different way out. We're going to be talking about that. After that, we give you guys information about building your brand, or not building your brand, building your 20 or 30-year plan. Because knowing where you want to be at in your future and what you got to do to get there allows for you to reverse engineer the step-by-step areas that you need to do to get yourself set up. Like I was telling Stephen about building himself a revocable trust for his father while his father's still alive, set everything up, start putting stuff in there as Stephen collects things. And then when his father passes, it becomes an irrevocable trust, and he can appoint a third party to manage these things. Especially if you've put enough money in there for it to be managed, that actually makes a lot more sense. But the key factor is that by the time his father passed, he's got an irrevocable trust that he, as a grantor, can add more stuff to, especially if he puts that clause in there, beneficiaries and the grantors being able to add to the trust. And he's listed on the trust as one of the people that is adding to the trust. He can just put whatever he wants into the trust after the trust becomes irrevocable. And then other ways like Charles Schwab's that helps with building the investment portfolio and then allowing the trustee to take over, building that investment portfolio based on the instructions that were being detailed, so that there's no mistakes on how this is supposed to function. Then you have, so you know how the rebalancing is going to occur. If all the money is going into REITs and BDCs, and then the dividends from the REITs and BDCs will be rebalanced, where 50% of that goes to you, and then 50% of that gets rebalanced into the other non-REIT and BDC portfolios. Then you have your non-REIT and BDCs that might give dividends, and then you might say take those dividends and 50% of it, rebalance them into those, and then take some of that money and put it towards, taking care of yourself or whatever the case may be. However you decide to work out that business model, you have the ability to structure how do you want your investments to go, regardless of how the market is. As long as those entities are still around, that's what they're going to be using. Then you're going to continue to do exactly what you're putting in the instructions. So when somebody takes over, they see, oh, so REITs and BDCs are overloaded. I'm going to add to the REITs and BDCs, and then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to move it and forever move it until somebody gives me something else to add. But I'm going to get it back to its normal levels by rebalancing from REITs and BDCs to the other entities in the portfolio, which allows for the portfolio to grow faster, making it, like we discussed, post-pay taxation, which allows for the beneficiaries to not have to pay taxes on already on pre-taxed money, so you don't got to pay taxes twice. A lot of the different things that we would be worried about, if you cover all of that stuff now, once Paul dies, it gets locked in, and then you put a third person involved to take care of everything, and now you're good to go. And you can do two things. You can either continue to build the legacy of that particular trust, or you can allow that trust to be the one that standalone takes care of you, and then you can build another trust with somebody else. If you get a girlfriend or a wife or somebody like that, you can start building a trust with her, where that trust is all about what happens between you and her, because you don't put anything else into the old trust when you're in a new relationship with somebody that's financially contributing to you. So that makes a lot of sense, which protects that old trust, because that old trust never gets tampered with, because anything incoming that could have hypothetically come from a contribution from your spouse puts the whole trust at risk. So once the new person steps in and y'all reach a level of the relationship where y'all are intertwining resources, that old trust is an exit only trust, and any documentation that protects that, would protect it, because it's a standalone self-performing trust that is an irrevocable trust that you benefit from, which holds no bearing on her contributions, because she doesn't contribute to it. You benefit from it, and then your benefits contribute to her standard of living. So that's part of the ways that we talk about giving. We have on Sundays questions and comments from the fans that allows for you guys, if you guys have questions, that we provide you with a detailed quantity of answers. So again, I want a special shout out to Sterling, because he does dive in from time to time on certain topics and provide a lot of insight. So I really enjoy that when he clicks the link and approve the mic, approve the camera, come in on real time, and he comes in and provides a little bit of a debatable intellect on the show. So I really like that, and I encourage it when we have positive people coming in producing positive insight. But when we don't have it, there's not much I can cover on that dynamic. But today we're supposed to be talking about Canada. So this is what we're going to do about Canada. Everyone has talked about Canada. It's supposed to be the beautiful Canadian Rockies and how polite the people are, but nobody talks about the dark sides of Canada's dream. Because before you pack your bags and book that one-way ticket, there are 3 harsh realities that you must face head on, or Canadians will chew you up and spit you out. The first one is going to be shocking. The soul-crushing cost of just existing here, because we've got to understand that one of the things is the most expensive part of living anywhere: housing. We got, this is one of those videos that's going to be sent to a fantasy. Tonight's show is not about getting you guys hung up on going somewhere that is not as it seems. Canada's a fun place to be, fantastic people. However, just like America, it's not as cheap as you would hope. So this is going to be the conversation that we need to have. The one that I wish somebody would have had with me long, long time ago when we were talking about traveling places. So we're going uh, surface level advice, and we're going to be digging into three pillars that will actually determine your success and, more importantly, your happiness in Canada. The first pillar, pillar number one, is going to be the true cost of living, not the government estimates, but the real numbers. That is going to hit your bank account very hard every single month. So you want to pay attention to that. Pillar number two is going to be the dating and relationship landscape, specifically for those of us who are family oriented, looking for serious partners, not just casual flings. This is a topic that is so often ignored, yet it is central to our sense of belonging. Then pillar number three, how to actually build wealth and invest when you're starting on low income, because the idea that you need to be rich to invest is going to be a true myth that we bust on a regular basis that keeps people trapped in a cycle of just getting by, which is one of the things I talked about with Sterling once before, is that truth be told, um, you cannot um, for the life of me, I know that people believe this. You cannot blame society for not being financially successful when um, you have the ability to be financially successful. While you might not know what ways to go to be financially successful, no one is stopping you from getting the knowledge to be financially successful. Everything's online. Everything is accessible to you. Nothing is withdrawn. Nothing is members only access. This isn't the situation where, like back in the 50s, where only certain kind of people can enter certain kind of buildings, right? This isn't that kind of era. In this era, if you Google search it, if it exists, you've got access to it. The only things that they limit you is government websites that requires government authority access, but beyond that, everything else that is accessible to the people, it's accessible to everybody. Wall Street, brokerage accounts, investment opportunities, real estate investment trust, BDCs, uh, peer-to-peer brokerage accounts, all of the stuff that the big business guys use. Everything that's available is available to you. But one of the things that turns you away is when you're reading the fine print and it says minimum investment $50,000, $100,000, $2.5 million. If you don't got that, it kind of weeds you out of the big scale commercial investments. But that doesn't mean that you can't invest in yourself on small scales. You know, we have small scale peer-to-peer lendings, like I told you guys about, with investing in legal cases, car crashes. Quickest way to turn $5,000 into $6,500 in less than 9 months. Um, we talked about other ways outside of simply brokerage accounts, investing in cash dividend paying scenarios, outside of real estate investments where you buy properties and rent them out and use them as capital, because those are some of the best ways to do it. Because if you're renting out a property, you're making money off the property, and if you're living off the property, you're making money off of you living on that property rent free. We've covered that dynamic where buying a fourplex allows for you to charge if your mortgage was $3,000 a month, and that's pretty high for some people. But you've got four units there, and each person's paying $1,500 a month. They're effectively paying $4,500 a month. They could cover your entire cost for the property and all your utility bills, potentially your phone bill and your car insurance, and maybe even your car note, with the amount of money that they're paying on rent, where you ultimately have no expenses. Your whole standard of living is covered because you've got three neighbors, right? And you can take the change left over instead of balling out of control and put that money aside for maintenance on a property. So when somebody says they need a repair, you've got a repair guy on staff that can come and take care of that. You can also find yourself in a situation where 2 out of the 3 units is paying $1,500 a month, and one of them might be paying $1,000 a month because that's the repair guy. Where they don't got to call you, they can call the downstairs neighbor, and the downstairs neighbor come up and fix everything up. Either way it goes, you factor everything into the magnitude where you can start off making money, make money for you. As soon as you realize that you could be doing it differently, you start changing the way you do. You can start doing things better. It's just that people don't think about that. People don't consider that, right? Now, if you're serious about Canada, not just as a place to work, but as a place to build a life, then this is the video for you. So we're going to cover it all with radical transparency. So he said, I would be the repair guy. That's good. That's good. I mean, if you lived on my property, you might be the repair guy, but if you lived on your property, you don't want to be the repair guy. Reason being, the mentality of the business owner, not the business employee, is to remove yourself from the manual labor work to buy back your free time, your freedom to go explore life, go to the movies, hang out with friends, spend time with family members, especially elderly family members that don't have that many years left. The ability to take a vacation, the ability to sleep in late, the ability to get up late, the ability to not have to get out of bed at all, the ability to go on vacation and not have to worry about what's going on while you're not here. The ability to do something else to make more money while this money is generating on its own. You are supposed to remove yourself from the operations so you're not stuck in one place. The mindset, the worker mindset, and I used to have that worker mindset. My mama raised a slave when she raised me. I did nothing I did not do has something to do with me getting up and putting in that manual level work. I'm telling you, I was out there. I was doing the work of 10 folks. I was out there 18 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. I was out there. When I was a kid, I was out there. I was out there all night at work and then all day in school. And when I would get out of school, I would go to work. There was no after school detention. If I didn't act right in class, you're going to have to see me on Saturday because I got to go to work as soon as school let out. And unless you chain me to this desk, I'm going to get in my car. And this is me in like junior high, at 15 years old. I drove to school in my own car. I'm getting in my car and I'm driving to work. So unless you're going to handcuff me to one of these chairs, when that bell rings, I'm out of here. I'll see y'all on Saturday when I get off from work. But there ain't no reason why I'm going to be camping out up in here thinking about the fact that I took a nap in first period homeroom class because I clocked out of work at 7:15 in the morning and drove to school and went to the classroom and put my head down and slept until second period, which is the first period that actually teaches you something. You're not going to get me on that. You're not going to punish me for having a job. I'll leave this bitch and not come back. So you got to understand the mentality. I know what it's like to work. I know what it's like to work and put your job before birthdays, before special occasions, before vacations, and then take the money and replace your presence in the meaningful people's lives that you have by buying them the things that they want, getting them the things that they need, covering their expenses. But that workhorse mentality does not benefit you personally. It benefits your flock, but it doesn't benefit you personally. The worker mentality is to remove yourself from the work so that the work can still get done, but you can go do something else. So if you are the worker bee on somebody else's property and you want to get the discount on the rent because you're going to do the maintenance guy, I would do that. I would definitely do that. I would promote that. If you've got hands-on skills, if you got electrical work skills or something like that, if you're a handyman and you're living on a property that needs a handyman or doesn't have enough handymen, I would offer to the landlord, hey, cut some money off for the rent and I'll fix whatever you want fixed. Matter of fact, you could hire me as a handyman and then you could pay me a check separate from what I got to pay from the rent. And then I can get there and put my check towards the rent. But at the same time, you could double down on the situation and give me a discount on the rent and still pay me a separate check since I work for the company. So yeah, I would do that. But if I own the property, I ain't fixing shit. I ain't fixing shit because the goal purpose is to hire third party workers to do the fixing for me, right? And that's going to be one of the ways that you're capable of making more money, make money for you. Because what people always recommend on paper, you get the fourplex, you renovate all 4 units, you fill it up, you and 3 tenants, you live there for a year, 2 years, whatever the what is it, FHA requirements is at least 1 year, VA requirements at least 1 year. I've seen recently another requirement for a repair loan that might require you to stay on a property for 3 years. After that, mortgage, using a property as a residence is lifted and you can relocate somewhere else, that's when you move out of that apartment, put somebody else in there, and now you've got 4 tenants in 4 units that is paying rent at $1,500 per unit. That's $6,000 a month for a property that would have otherwise cost you $3,000 a month. Ultimately, you're moving on to another property that you can do the same thing to, which means that first property has to run on its own. The rent has to get paid without you having to go knock on doors. Repairs have to be made without you having to answer the phone all the fucking time, which means that you have to have a secretary to answer the phone and deal with bullshit. And that secretary can call somebody to come and fix the bullshit. That secretary can also call people to collect the money, right? You might have to have a website where they can auto pay, but then you need a tech agent that could service the website. That's 4 people right there. Landscaper, 5. Look, that's a small business. But if some of those people are going to handle multiple properties, you might get those 5 people to run the first property, and the extra 3,000 or the extra $1,500 a month that you're getting in might start splitting a lot of people's salaries. Well, actually, technically, because $3,000 of it, which would be 2 tenants going towards the property costs, and then the other $3,000 could be split towards wages. You might get less money covering your room and board, but at the same time, you would be able to cover the 5 employees that would be taking care of the property. And then you go and get a second property to do the same thing that you did with the first property, which means that now you have another $4,500 covering the overhead for the 5-man crew that's handling 2 properties. And that's how you scale up. But you're scaling up, which is what we talked about yesterday, scaling up on your ability to be successful by increasing assets and then expanding on capital gains. So when we were talking about this yesterday, a lot of people think that you cannot invest unless you have money. Broke people live from paycheck to paycheck. Broke people only live from paycheck to paycheck specifically because whenever they get extra money, as soon as they get it, they spend it. Doesn't matter if they spend it on bullshit. It doesn't matter if they spend it on popping bottles in the club or, guys night out, girls night out, dating, whatever. It doesn't matter if they spend it on finally repairing the car because the car's been needing to be fixed for years. And as soon as they get this bonus, you got to fix the engine and the transmission. So you got $15,000 and you fix your car with it. It doesn't matter if, you've been owing taxes forever and you just got this $10,000 and now you got to pay the IRS. It doesn't matter if you just got this $15,000 or $20,000 and now you got to pay all that back child support. It doesn't matter what happened. What happens is that when you get that money, you gave the principal away to a debt instead of putting that principal in a place where that principal can make money for you, and then take the dividends from that and start paying on that debt where the principal is always there, which would have actually subsidized your income and increased your income. There was an alternative, but a lot of people think pay down all of my debts, live debt free. And like Michael preaches on the show plenty of times, I'm debt free, because a lot of people 50, 60, 70 years ago believed that being debt free was successful. Being debt free is beneficial, but it is not success. If you're still living from paycheck to paycheck, just because you don't owe nobody more money than what you make, doesn't change the fact that the things that you want to buy or the things that you need to buy right now can't get bought right now because you don't have enough money to pay for it. You just don't have people calling your phone asking you for money that you don't have, but you still have things that need to be paid for that you don't have enough money to pay for. Living from paycheck to paycheck is the freedom that you're trying to be liberated from, right? You're trying to be liberated from waiting till your next paycheck to make a purchase, right? And that's why we're talking about Canada, where we're talking about Canada, because there's no negative shots on Canada. So anybody coming to listen to the show, waiting for me to take a shot at Canada, I'm not going to take any negative shots at Canada. I'm just going to let you guys know Canada and America are right next to one another, and Canada and America are not cheap. Okay. Canada, America, Hong Kong, those are some expensive places to be. Hong Kong is like living in New York. And New York is one of the most expensive places in America. Okay. So when we start talking about this today, I want y'all to understand that, Canada got some pretty good benefits in some areas, but living there, look, man, you're definitely not going to be over there with like $3,000 a month in Canada. You might need to bring a little bit more than that, right? But let's get into it. We're going to start with the pillars that impact everybody else, and one of the things that slows you down the most, which is going to be the money. So if you plan a budget going to Canada, thinking that you're going to be conservative, research things online, look at the forums, and come up with a number that is going to feel reasonable to you. You might feel prepared. Then when you land, within the first 30 days, the budget is completely and utterly destroyed. It's not going to be one single thing. It's going to be 1,000 tiny things. First is going to be the grocery bill. There's a handful of items that cost what a full cart would have cost back home, right? It's going to be the sticker shock of a simple phone plan. It's going to be realizing that the average rent that you tried to budget for was far a basement unit an hour and a half away from the city center, not the clean, safe apartment that you may have figured in your mindset. Because a lot of times, what advertisers do, and this is why I had no concern about Kamala Harris's thoughts about, I don't want people to hide fees and this, that, and the third. I don't want them to hide fees either. But what she was talking about was hotel fees and plane fees. And it's like, bro, you paid to sleep in the bed in the room. You didn't pay for the mini bar. You didn't pay. That's upsell. You didn't pay for the TV. That's upsells. That's added amenities. They put it in the room to compel you to touch stuff. And when you touch stuff, you got to pay for it. If you turn on the TV and start flicking through channels, some of them channels are not free. So you got paid per usage. So if you're not watching TV, if you're in there taking your ass to bed and going to sleep and getting up and walking out, all you're paying for is the basic room. And room service is going to cost more money. That's a luxury convenience. They don't tell you that in the beginning, but it will be a room service charge on your room for each time that you get room service. They might not charge you for the wake up call, for the courtesy wake up call, which is why they call it courtesy. But if somebody brings something to your room on your behalf, there's probably going to be a fee for that, right? And each time you do that, thinking, oh yeah, they just bring stuff to your room, they just drop this off. Like if y'all ever watch Medea, like you seen how quickly that damn bill stacked up because everything is charged to the room. Nobody knows how much they're paying because nobody has the common sense to ask, how much is this? But as we've said before, the mindset of the wealthy is, if you have to ask how much it is, your ass can't afford it. So unless you're willing to pay whatever they ask for what you're asking for, don't ask for it. Now, logic dictates you might still want it. Fine. How much does this cost? But guess what? If you ask them how much does this cost, they should be able to tell you how much it costs. Like they sometimes they give you that $50 service fee for the room. And then if you return the room back to them in a good position at $50, you need to put that room on a credit card where you can check that statement and see that $50 return. Because a lot of times they'll tell you upon sign on that this is return upon checkout as long as the room isn't defaced or in bad condition. And then you will check out and they won't give you back the 50. It was just an extra 50 bucks that they took off of the room. If they're charging you that extra $50 for commodities like towels or anything to that effect, special shout out to Daniel. Towels, shampoos, body washes, this, that, and third. It's like, if y'all are charging me for the stuff in the room, like people who steal from the hotel, some people steal from the hotel and they don't get an extra charge on their credit card, thinking that the hotel did not catch that. No, if they charged you 50 bucks for the towels that came up missing out of the room, I mean, that's what you paid the extra 50 bucks for, was for the towels that came up missing out of the room. So you walked out of the room with custom made towels that you could have fucking bought off of Temu for $5 for the cost of 50 bucks, right? So you really got to pay attention to those things. Listings, which is what we're talking about with Canada, the listings are something that people don't pay attention to. You will look at the goal is to grab the people who are wasteful spenders and say it's free. Like some of the houses in Japan, they are free. Just got to pay the property taxes. They don't tell you about the property taxes, but the taxes out there is cheap too. Taxes out there might be like 800 yen, which might be in American dollars like 80 bucks. Well, they might have like 8,000 yen, and then in American dollars, it might be 80 bucks, something like that, which a lot of Americans be like, fuck yeah, I'll buy that. Now, some problems are some of those houses might be $250,000 worth of renovations. Some of those houses might require zone rezoning or zone modifications in order for you to renovate it. Because if you don't pay the government the cost to rezone the house or some type of zone modification or exemption that allows for you to renovate the house and bring the house back up to livable condition, it is an unusable property, which is why it has no cost. It's part of the cost. The other part of the reason why it has no cost is because their real estate is a depreciating asset, not an appreciating asset, because they have this cultural thing about like people's auras and feng shui and this, that, and the third. And when somebody lives in the property, they leave their essence, their spirit, their this, that, and the third in the property. And in order for them to take that other person's aura out of the property, you got to gut the property down to its bare bones and rebuild it, which costs way more than truly renovating the property, right? And the issue is that they'll just leave it there because it's not worth anything because somebody's already lived in it, right? So a property that's been sitting there 30 years ago to have a family live in it for 5 years would be worth nothing to that culture, but to an American, it'd be worth everything because it's a $0 property. And if you're buying it as a homestead, fucking fantastic, because I can buy it. I could potentially, some of them, I could move right in and then find some locals to fix it up, right? But when you're going to places like Canada and they tell you, oh, it's cheap. We have rooms, we have units, we have apartments. And worst thing in the world is the word unit, because a unit could mean a flat, like a 5-bedroom, like everything on the top floor flat. A unit could be a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom. It could be inefficiency. A unit could be a 1-bedroom out of the apartment. A unit could be, like I said a moment ago, the basement of a house. Because a unit is the count, right? It is not an actual apartment. We consider by mentality units and apartments. And that's kind of where people get thrown off. Like, so you'll see that they have listings for different units, and then they'll show you the address of the unit, and they'll show you the price of the unit. And you'll think, oh, I can go and rent a place for like 750 bucks. And there's very few pictures of the unit you're leasing, but the fact is that they have pictures of the place that the unit is located at. And you're like, oh, this is a beautiful, beautiful place. My unit's at that place. Then when you get to the place, it's like living underneath Jason Voorhees or some shit. That's not what we're trying to accomplish, right? You find yourself when you first get out there with a financial blur that will build you a high level of anxiety. You're constantly converting prices in your head from US dollars to Canadian dollars, you know, to create a feeling of a knot in your stomach with every tap of your debit card, and that feeling of the financial shock is going to be something that many newcomers are going to experience, but it is rarely discussed in the glossy immigration brochures. The dream of a high Canadian salary quickly collides with the reality of high Canadian expenses. And that's going to be one of the things that a lot of people got slapped in the face with when people from Taiwan and Taipei come to America thinking, oh, my $30,000 a year job in Taiwan is a $250,000 job in America. If I go to America, I'd be rich. Well, if you go to America, quarter middle, like middle class, your whole paycheck is paying for your standard of living, where 70 or 80% of your income is paying for your standard of living. And then 10% of your income might be paying for travel to and from back home. And then you still got a little left over for discretionary spending, right? So you're still living from paycheck to paycheck. Your skill set's value in America might produce a larger quantity of capital with a larger cost of living there, right? So you could probably go to Taipei and do the same work that you're doing in America for less money, but the standard of living is cheaper. So the money that you're making in Taipei might actually be better than the money that you're making in America, because the living cost is less than the income requirement or the income gain in the same country, right? So when you're going to Canada, and I think Canada might be a 10% maybe more than America. I'm not exactly sure. I have to gauge that. I haven't actually, it's been a while since I've covered Canadian dollars to US dollars, but I believe that Canada might be more expensive than America. So when you go over there with US dollars, you're actually spending more money in Canadian dollars than what you're spending in US dollars. So you got to be careful when you go there, right? But if we break down some of the brutal truths with some real numbers, forget the vague, it can be expensive. What does it actually mean for a single person trying to make it in Canada? Based on the data and trends, a rough monthly budget for a single person in Canada is now estimated to be between 3,300 Canadian dollars and 3,800 Canadian dollars, right? Now, what I want to do, I'm gonna do this real quick because I said I hadn't calculated it, but I really want to calculate it. Canadian dollars to USD. I want to be able to get that understanding. It is one Canadian dollar for every 72 cents. Special shout out to Uncommon Woman. Special shout out to Uncommon Woman. Blessings to Xander in the chat room. Now, one Canadian dollar for 72 cents. So for every 720 US dollars, that is 1,000 Canadian dollars. I want you guys to understand that real quick. So your US dollar doesn't go as far in Canada than what it does in other countries. So if you needed 3,800 Canadian dollars, right? Let's really put that into effect. That's going to be $2,726 in US dollars, which is a little under $3,000. Not quite, but almost, right? But that's going to be a single person living a reasonable lifestyle in Canada. So it's not for a life of luxury. That's going to be the baseline for reasonable comfort, existence, and many parts of that country where you're going to feel like this is I can do this right now. To live comfortably, you guys got to understand, many financial experts suggest a single person need an annual salary of somewhere between 55,000 and 80,000 Canadian. Now, I just want you to understand, 55,000 Canadian dollars is about $39,457, which is almost 40,000 a year. $3,000 a year is $36,000 a year. So you're not going to Canada with a $36,000 a year lifestyle, right? We said $80,000 is on the top end to live reasonably comfortable. That is a $57,392 income, which is like working at McDonald's in America, right? 57, almost $58,000, right? Working at a fast food restaurant for like $20 an hour. You would need your whole annual salary to go with you over there, or digital nomad making like 60,000 a year to go over there and be able to prepare for the unexpected. Well, Stephen, if you were trying to go to Canada for a few months, then I would recommend that you went to Canada with approximately $5,000 to $6,000 for every month that you were planning on going, right? Because if we're looking at living truly comfortable, having a salary of roughly 57 or 58,000 a year, if you were to do the true math on that, 58,000 a year income divided by 12 months is about $4,800 a month. So even though technically, for a week, okay, just a weekend. All right, well, since you're doing it just for a weekend, if you're doing $4,800 for the month and you're doing it just for the weekend, then that would be about $1,200 for the weekend. And if you want to make sure that you got enough money to cover the cost, I would double that, right? I would double that, right? So instead of so I would say like $2,500 just for the weekend. Now, the swinger part about this is that if you bring more money than you need, that means that you got more money to come back with. If you bring just enough money for the things that you prepared for, the things that you were not prepared for is what you're going to need extra money for. So, like I said, you cannot prepare for everything, but most things can be only if you prepare for that by bringing extra money. Twice as many things as you planned on getting involved in, you bring enough money to cover double. And then if something extra that you didn't plan on happened, there's extra money lying around, right? Now, this is going to depend heavily on the city and the lifestyle that you're going to live, because for a family of four, you can see how the numbers could balloon to between 95,000 Canadian dollars and $155,000 per year in Canadian dollars. So the biggest driver of this is going to be, without a doubt, the housing expectations. And I know that's going to be one of the first things you wanted to for most Canadians, and the difference between cities is going to be massive. So if you're dreaming of living in Toronto or Vancouver, you are choosing to play in the major leagues. All right. So the expenses are going to be higher. As of early 2026, the average asking rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto can hover around $2,100 to $2,400. While you might be staying in a hotel since you're only going to be there for the weekend, but you understand that a lot of hotels are going to be charging upward of $250 a night, which means you might need $1,000 for the hotel for the weekend, even though that's going to cover your entire housing situation, utilities, internet, water, everything of that effect with the hotel stay. It's the fact that you're probably going to spend $1,000 alone on just the hotel room. So when I told you bring $2,500, that gives you $1,500 after after the hotel for whatever else you need, food, travel, stuff to that effect. $1,500 doesn't go very far if you've got events and activities that you're trying to go to in a place where, cab ride might be 60 bucks each time you take a cab ride, where you might find yourself spending $300 or $400 on cabs before you go buy food. And since you're living in a hotel, you're going to be eating out, and we're about to get to that, the cost of eating out. And then if you're going there for an event, the cost of the event, if the tickets for the event is $150 to $200, you know what I mean? You only had what, $1,500 extra dollars. There's only $1,000 left. If you draw out $300 for travel, now you got $700 left to feed yourself for the for the weekend. You see how quickly the money depreciates. And this is if you don't have. This is a situation where if you're lost or if you have to pay extra money for a tour guide or something to that effect, right? Because I'm planning on one night in the hotel to shower and one night in the car to save money. Don't do that. It's fucking cold over there. You bring you enough money to do both nights. If you're gonna be there for 3 days, 2 nights, just get you 2 nights in the hotel. If you're driving to Canada, you need to take into consideration the financial cost of driving to Canada. You also have to understand that since you're using an older model car instead of a rental car, I would travel with a rental car. The reason why I would travel with a rental car, because your 1980s model vehicle should not have the wear and tear that you're going to put on it to drive to Canada and then drive back. I know your trusted old girl got you everywhere you needed it to get you, right? But you're going out of town. You want a car that is fully renovated to the fact where you don't need to fix anything. You just got to put gas in it, take it, and bring it back. And if you're going to use a rental car, they're going to ask you for $200 down, and then you're going to pay gas per mileage. And I would always, always, always pay that extra $18 to $24 a day for the vehicle insurance, so that my insurance doesn't have to cover that vehicle. It's just going to be their insurance. And whatever company that they offer, they give you some bullshit. Oh no, we only lease to customers that have insurance. Well, I can't help you. I don't have an insurance card. I'm not doing. If you guys don't offer insurance, I don't want the car. Because I actually had one company try that with me in Florida, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. If you guys don't provide the insurance, then I'm leaving without the car. And they gave me insurance, right? Some issue right now, the prices on repairing older model cars. Your car would require a transmission flush sooner, engine flush sooner, tune up sooner, because when you start driving, I don't know where you are right now. Oh no, I remember where you are. From where you are, Stephen, now that I remember where you are, to Canada, depending on where you're headed at to Canada, you might be doing a 2,000-mile drive in one direction. And if that's the case, you're putting 4,000 miles on your vehicle, which is a guaranteed oil change on your way out, oil change on your way back, and you might have to do a tune-up before you go, transmission flush before you go, and an engine flush after you get back. So I wouldn't do that to my own personal vehicle. I would get a rental car, go out there, and come back. Get a rental car with unlimited miles. I wouldn't tell them I'm going out of town. I just need the rental car for like 4 days. Because if it's going to take you 1 day to get there and 1 day to get back, and you plan on being there for 3 days, I'd rent the car for a week. That's it. I wouldn't tell them where I'm going. I rent the car for the week, and I'm going to bring it right back here. I'm not going to tell them where I'm going. Then I get in that motherfucker and I cross Canada. So do what I got to do and come back with that bitch. Unlimited mileage, just got to fill the tank when I bring it back. That's what I do. And in that situation, you might pay $700 for the week for the rental car plus $200 security deposit plus the gas on the car, way cheaper than having to rebuild your car to make that trip and come back safely. Especially since you talking about, oh, I'm gonna sleep in my car. Fuck that. I ain't sleeping in shit. Fuck that. If you have to make a trip that is banked on, first of all, Canada's got snow. Canada's got snow year round. Okay. You should never have a trip revolving around living outside in a snowy climate as part of your way to get past your finances. Just delay the trip until you can afford to stay inside the entire time. That would be the best way to go, right? So, um, as of early 2026, the average asking rent for one bedroom apartments in Toronto is about $2,100 to $2,400. Uh, Vancouver isn't closer to the staggering 2,400, 2,700 per month. It is closer to 2,400 to 2,700 per month, and those are just averages. Finding a decent place in a desirable neighborhood can easily push you towards 2,900 or even $3,500 just for the entire month. So if you were going out there and, like I said before, trying to get a hotel, 3 days, 2 nights, where you would check in that afternoon and you would be there for 2 more days, and you would check out on the third day, you're looking at, like I said, probably $100 to $150 a night guaranteed in most hotels. So you're looking at probably $300 plus whatever deposit they charge you, $300 each 3 nights. That's what you should bring with you in preparation, right? Now, you do what you want to do. Tell me how it works out when you get back, but that's what I would have done. I would have got the rental car for about 700 plus the security deposits, like $200 with Enterprise. So I would pay like $900 for the rental car. The gas to get out there, probably I would put like $400, $500 for gas, because gas is so expensive right now. I might not need that much, but I put $500 aside for the gas. But if it's $900 for the car, $500 for the gas, I'm already at $1,400. I said put $400 for the hotel just in case. That puts me at $1,800. Now, I did tell you bring $2,500 for this trip. I'm at $1,800. If you start trying to buy food along the way, you might spend $50 on your way to Canada. You might spend $50 back from Canada. So you're at $1,900 to eat to and from. And out of the remaining $600, whatever the fuck you were going out there for, that's what you would be spending that $600 on. Now, notice I did the math for you, and then I adjusted everything for what you planned on doing. And $2,500 for 3 days in Canada, based on what you plan on doing, might barely be enough to do it. See why I tell you guys, man, if you're planning on going out there and doing something strange, you might as well bring $3,000, or bring double, or sometimes bring triple. You never know. Double what you think it's going to be, that's definitely an expectation. Now, I wanted to take a break there for a minute because these numbers can feel abstract, right? And a lot of people don't believe that these costs are really these costs. So let's make it tangible. If your rent is like $2,500 and you need to earn over $3,000 a month after taxes just to cover your housing before you bought a single grocery item and paid for a bus pass or even turned on the lights, this is why so many videos that go out about the cost of living there, the articles that are talking about Canada, miss the point. They're talking about job opportunities and high wages, but they fail to connect that to the sheer cost of survival on the biggest budgets in these cities. Now, the high salary that you were promised can be vaporized by rent before you even have a chance to save. Canada's cost of living is higher than the United States, but their food is better. Their healthcare is better. So their cost of living is going to be higher. Their food is going to be better, but their health care is going to be better. There are a lot of benefits that you can get from Canada because Canada has a lot more government subsidies to the population, regardless of your income, simply because you're a Canadian. The benefits that you get outweigh a lot of the costs that you have to pay to be there. But see, the problem is that people don't understand, an outsider coming in, that there's costs that you have to pay before you're considered a one of us kind of situation. And that cost is way higher than the shit that we pay in America, because America is every man for himself. Right? Now, it's not all doom and gloom. This is going to be where the solution part of the pillar comes in, because the key is not just surviving, but thriving as a strategy. So the first strategic decision is going to be geography, because your Canadian dream does not have to be in a place like Toronto or Vancouver. There are a laundry list of areas around the country. Cities like Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, or Halifax offer significantly lower cost of living. In many of these mid-tier cities, a comfortable budget for a single person might fall into the $2,000 to $3,000 Canadian dollar range, which would likely be well under the $3,000 budget. For instance, a whole one bedroom in Vancouver might be 2,600 Canadian dollars, and a small unit in Edmonton could be in the 1,200 to 1,400 scenario. A 1 month apartment in Edmonton might be the cost of a hotel stay in Toronto for the weekend. So you might just go to a different city if you're not married to the thought of going to a specific city in Canada. Winnipeg, $1,200 to $1,500. The difference is over $1,000 every single month. Money that goes directly back into your pocket for he said, everybody's healthcare is better, cheaper than ours. We're all about capitalism. All our goals are is to make more money off of other people's suffering. Insurance policies are peace of mind policies. And I don't get insurance policies unless I can find opportunity costs with those insurance policies. For example, you get a house and they will offer you a health insurance protection plan that will cover the cost of the house in case you die. Fantastic. If you have a legacy, you can make your legacy the owner of the house, do a transfer of a transfer deed on death scenario where if you die, your kids get the house. But that life insurance policy that is directly issued to you as a coverage for the property itself, not like a whole life insurance policy, not a term life insurance policy, because this policy is supposed to exist for the 30 years of the mortgage. You can keep it if you pay the house off sooner and just let it ride, but it's supposed to be for the 30 years of the mortgage. What happens is that if you die before the mortgage is paid, this policy pays you within a few days of your death. All you got to do is send them a death certificate showing that you're dead. They pay you. You take the money. You pay the mortgage company. The mortgage company lets you keep the house. So the kids don't have to do a financial background check on the property and this, that, third to prove that they own, that they can afford to pay for the mortgage. If they want to remortgage the house, they can, but they don't have to. They can leave the house free and clear and just live in it the way it is. Right now, that type of policy makes sense. There's another type of policy. They got warranty policies for properties where if you move into the property, everything's working in the property. You pay a certain quantity of money on the property, or not pay a certain quantity of money, like a few $100s, for a warranty for the stuff in the house. If anything breaks after the warranty policy starts, you can collect on the warranty policy. That policy is a peace of mind policy, because if nothing is broken, then usually nothing needs to be fixed, right? So a lot of the times people will pay 3, 5, 7, 10 years on a warranty for repairs on the property where they don't need that warranty. But if you're talking to one of these guys, you know you got some stuff in here that you might want to tune up, And they say, yeah, it'll cover everything. And then after the claim period starts, where you can start taking out claims, you might be paying a few $100s at a time for the monthly service, but you would be calling them up and saying, hey, I got this repair that needs done, that repair that needs done. And they would be up to a certain amount repairing a whole bunch of shit. Well, think about it. If you're paying upward of $6,000 over the course of the policy to have the policy, but you're spending almost $20,000 worth of repairs on that same policy, you find yourself getting more than what you spend, right? How you doing, you and your chat? Oh, special shout out to Mr. Satellite. Good to see you, buddy. But those are the types of policies that make sense. Policies that don't make sense. Car insurance policies. You gotta have them just for the sake of having them. It's a just in case policy. Just in case you hit somebody, just in case somebody hits you, because you can't predict the future. So you'll be paying for car insurance your whole life just so that you don't get a ticket. You might never get into a car crash, but you'll be throwing away a bunch of money for the peace of mind that in case you did get into an accident, you'd be covered. You've got health insurance policies, same thing. You don't need it, you don't use it, but you pay for it every month. You know, life insurance policy. You might be young, you're getting it in case you die. But if you live like to the 94 or 103 or whatever the case may be before you die, you will find yourself in a situation paying 60, 70, 90 years on this policy before you die. And you might have outpaid the cap on the policy that they're even offering. Because some people can't afford a $1 million policy out the gate. They might get a $250,000 policy. And if you got a $250,000 policy and you've paid them $250,000, the opportunity cost, you could have put that money into a brokerage account and built that kind of money. But they got it for the peace of mind of if I die before I give them the $250,000, that my ancestors can get the $250,000 back, even though we only paid like $15,000 towards it, right? That's the opportunity cost that people buy into when they're getting these policies. But health insurance is supposed to be used. It's supposed to be used regularly. And that's why when we had the discussion on Monday with Sterling, we had that conversation on Monday, and I was like, no, like there's no reason why we're getting things that we don't use. A health insurance policy is supposed to be used. When I told him that I was voting for free health care, because if we got free health care, it doesn't matter if we had to raise taxes to get it. If we had free health care, the people who need doctors would go to doctors on a regular basis because it's free. You know, you would be going to the doctor twice a month because it's free. You would be getting checkups. You would be seeing specialists. You will be one out of every 2 days off that you have would be a weekday to go to the doctor, right? Because it's free. But like the way you rotate your gym membership into your schedule, you'd be rotating going to see your doctor because it's free. You know, people's mental health, they would be seeing their psychiatrist every week and everything because it's free, right? But a lot of people just deal with poor health because they can't afford the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 that it would cost them if they went to the emergency room. And they don't have a standardized primary care physician that they can schedule an appointment to with a $500 checkup for the doctor to refer them to a specialist. So yeah, healthcare in America costs way more than other countries, and healthcare in America is not utilized as much as the people pay for it. But if you go to Canada, yeah, the healthcare is going to be better because everybody's going to the fucking doctor. It's going to be better and it's going to be cheaper because everybody's using it. But it's also primarily funded by the government because their taxes is high as fuck. Their taxes is not the 8% that we pay. Y'all got to understand it. So back to the main topic, when we're looking at the rent, if you budgeted around $1,400 to $1,800 Canadian dollars, this is realistic range for a decent one bedroom in a mid-sized city, right? Now, groceries would include food prices that have been a major pain point for Canadians with the forecast for 26 predicting another 4 to 6% increase, especially because of conflicts that we have right now overseas. So a realistic monthly grocery budget for a single person who cooks at home is about $400 to $600 Canadian if you're primarily cooking at home. Now you can imagine doubling that, because if you eat out frequently, the number is going to skyrocket. A simple meal at an inexpensive restaurant is about 18 Canadian dollars, and a coffee at a coffee house can be about 5 or 6 Canadian dollars. Right now, remember, it's $1 Canadian for every 76 cents. So you're looking at almost $20 at a restaurant. You're looking at almost $15 American to go eat at a restaurant. Right? It's almost $4 for a cup of coffee, $4 or $5 for a cup of coffee in America. We're and this is just the one cup of coffee, not if you want a refill. You know what I mean? Transportation is going to vary wildly, but Steven's got his own car, either a rental car if he listens to me, or his own car if he drives out there. But if you rely on transportation, a monthly pass is going to run you anywhere from about $100 to over $150 in some cities, which is about $72 to maybe $95 in American dollars, but still pretty expensive in comparison to some of the month-long bus pass in America that are like $65 a month. So expenses because insurance, gas, maintenance, potential car payments. This is why I tell you get a rental car. That can easily add another $400 or $500 or more per month to your budget. Utilities and internet, if you're not living in a hotel, will include heating, electricity, water, and your phone or internet plan. Reasonable estimate is about $150 to $350 per month in Canadian dollars added to your monthly expense. So just the property plus the so if you're looking at $350 for the utilities, $500 a month for the car, and then another $650 a month for food. Okay. Jesus, you're looking at adding an extra $1,300 or $1,400 to your stay, and that would be just for a 1 month stay. So if you hit $1,800 for stand, or even if you hit the low end and did $1,400 for a stay there, and then you did everything else in that particular stay, you add all of that up to see that even in cheaper cities that you're quickly approaching that $2,500 to $3,000 figure for bare necessities. Not if you're going there for a concert, not if you're going there for some kind of paid seminar, not if you're going down there for some kind of retreat, just for the base standard of living. So if there's any type of activity or event or anything that you're trying to go to, which is what's motivating you to go there, you barely have enough money for survival when you're going there with like a 3,000 Canadian dollar budget or 3,000 US budget. You're barely covering survival. Not if you get a flat tire, not if you need something extra going on, right? Just bare necessities. So what's the practical takeaway there, right? First things first, you must create a detailed line item budget before you move. And Stephen, you're gonna have to be realistic about this shit. If you're going to a tropical getaway, your backpacking across the world is a fantastic idea. I will never ever knock you for sleeping in a tent or camping outside under the stars, 2 blankets, and making it happen when the climate is hot as fuck. I don't recommend it. I'd prefer for you to at least have a box fan outside and an extension cord to the building. But if it's hot as fuck, you can deal with certain heat temperatures. But the snow, that's where I draw the line. I will never have someone tell me I'm going to camp outside in a place that snows. because you could easily have an unexpected climate change in a place that already has stagnant snow in the hottest part of the year. And that climate change could lead to you freezing to death outside when you could have been inside. I don't agree with that. I don't recommend that at all to anybody. So in your plans, Stephen, I'm going to ask you to budget for being inside the whole time that you are not commuting somewhere. No nights outside sleeping in the car, even if you're leaving the engine running. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that's the quickest way that things can go south. And I know I can't remember the name of that movie where those people had gotten to the car crash and they dude froze to death in the car and the woman barely survived and all of this other stuff. It's just not, it's not a good look. So don't do that. But I just wanted to point that out, right? So you want to get your detailed line items budgeted before you move, and you want to use, this is how you're going to be safe about it. You want to use the high end estimates for everything. Do not use minimum estimates. Use the top end estimates, because using the numbers that I share with you today as starting points. If you use the top end numbers that I was giving you, the $3,500, $3,800 starting points as your, you actually have the ability to overbring, and bringing more than what you need protects you from needing more. Yeah, I understand that you can always swipe your credit card for something extra, but if you end up in a situation where your credit card doesn't work, they don't have any power in that location, you can't get to a place that accepts your credit card. There's no humans open at that time. It's cash only or whatever. Currency exchange. What if your card gets locked up for? Oh, here's another thing in Canada. Whatever credit card you're taking with you, call your credit card companies and let them know the day before you leave, I'm going to Canada tomorrow. You will start seeing transactions between my current locations in Canada on my card for the next 7 days, so that they can notate it on your account. It doesn't mean that the card won't get frozen or flagged for fraud, but it's less likely to get flagged for fraud if the transactions outside of the normal area starts occurring, because you notified your banking institutions that you're relocating out of that particular area. Okay, so you definitely do that. But if your car gets locked up, you still need cash, and that's why I'm telling you, bring more than what you need. Right? Don't use the lowest numbers that you can find to make the math work, because it's not about making the math work. You want to use the realistic and even slightly pessimistic numbers. Be a stickler and overcharge yourself, because it's far better to be pleasantly surprised and have extra money than to be panicked because you're short. Calling somebody and saying, "Hey, can you cash at me some money? Can you Zelle me some money? Can you Venmo me some money?" Nah, it's okay. You should have more than what you need, probably in the back seat, right? Second, radically consider your definition of a desirable city. You're either going there for a reason or you're just going anywhere, right? Your financial well-being and your mental health might be far better than a city like Edmonton or Halifax, where your salary goes a lot further, as opposed to struggling to make ends meet in places like Vancouver or Toronto. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go to Vancouver or Toronto. You just need to bring a lot more money, delay your trip until you can afford to spend a lot more money to go to places like Toronto or Vancouver. Because you got to remember, tourist cities are going to cost more money than the cities out of the way. The allure of the big city is going to be powerful, but the peace of mind that comes with financial stability is always priced, right? Third, you want to explore alternative living situations, renting rooms or finding roommates for your first year. Even if you technically can afford your own place, that can be an incredibly powerful financial move. I mean, it can cut your single biggest expense in half, freeing up hundreds of dollars a month that can be used to build your emergency funds or start investing, which we're going to talk about on pillar 3. But while we're on it, Stephen, instead of trying to find you a hotel nearby, if you find somebody that's looking for a short for the weekend, you might could get that guy $150 for the whole weekend and live inside, than calling yourself trying to camp in your car. So that into higher consideration, because a person renting out their space is going to charge far less money than the hotel charging for the same quantity of space, right? And then you're going to have to confront the psychological impact of this financial pressure, because it's not just about the numbers, it's going to be about the feeling of constantly being behind, of working hard, but seeing your money disappear a whole lot faster than you expected. Acknowledging this pressure is going to be the first step in managing it. It's not a personal failure, it's going to be the economic reality of modern Canada. So, by choosing your cities wisely, budgeting diligently, and then managing your expectations, then you can navigate the first pillar successfully. But this financial pressure has a direct impact on the next pillar, which is building a life and a family. Now, one of the deepest human needs is going to be connection. Whether people admit it or not, a lot of people swear to God, "Oh, I'm single by choice." No, the people you want don't want you, and the people that want you, you don't want. So you're in a situation where the person that you would prefer to spend the rest of your life with could give two shits about you breathing. You're not single by choice. You'd prefer to be in a committed relationship with somebody, but at the end of the day, you're not actually able to find the person that you want that is also willing to commit to you as well. So you're failing in the dating pool ultimately, because you don't have. Now, men have to build themselves up to be that financial expectation for women. So we're going to fail for 3/4 of our lives. But a lot of the women that are not in a committed relationship, when their value was at its highest at 18 years old, and they're 25, 28, 30, and still haven't gotten that right person, it's just because your expectations are higher than your performance, and you're not doing what it takes to lock in that extra person to be there for the long haul. I'm just going to be here. I'm going to be serious with you guys. So for many people, considering a move to a new country for the dream of starting up a family isn't just about the career, right? It's going to be about building a whole life, and it's going to be about finding a partner and settling down and creating a family. But this is going to be where the conversation about immigration can often go silent when we start talking about Canada and a lot of countries, because with the smaller the country size, the smaller the dating pool, because roughly 51% of most countries are going to be more women than men in most countries. However, the smaller the culture, less women that are of legal age are single. And then out of the single women, they strategically, they're more often than not, the locals tend to stick with what they know, which is local. So in order for you, a foreigner, to be accepted into the culture as a preferred choice, you would have to be in a culture where the locals are underperforming the expectations of the local women, where you, as a foreigner, can easily overperform without even trying to meet the expectations of that same woman, which also means that you go into a place where your standard of living is above their standard of expectations. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why women talk down about passport bros, because they feel like the guys are going to cheaper countries to get broker women, because the guys are broke and they can't afford the American women. But I still point out the fact that it doesn't matter what country we go to. Even when we're talking about going to Canada, the fact is that you've got to pay tens of thousands of dollars to get there, stay there long enough to find that extra person, and then spend tens of thousands of dollars to bring them back. So just to get into a really good committed relationship with somebody that wasn't born and raised here, you're probably going to be swinging closer to 20 grand or more to go out and find and collect and return with that person. Whereas in America, we're spending that 20 grand just on the initial first contact, where the chick is going to hang out, enjoy her time, and then disappear. after a number of dates without commitment, and you've wasted all of this money and you still don't have that person, but you could have gone to any one of 200 plus countries around the world and found that person and brought it back. But the average person who can go to another country and find that person and bring them back has that extra $20,000 or more to spend on that type of endeavor above their standard of living, which is not the financial status of a broke person. That's something that not so many people think of. Right? But when we talk about job markets and visa requirements for Canada, we're rarely talking about the heart. We're rarely talking about love. We're rarely talking about dating and the very real challenge of finding a life partner, especially if you come from a more traditional background and hold family oriented values. I'll be honest. Navigating the dating world as a newcomer is going to be difficult because you are in a new culture. You have a different dialogue. They can tell that you're not from around here based on how you articulate your words. So you may not have the established social network that the locals do. And you're trying to understand unspoken social cues. This challenge is magnified tenfold if you're a man, or even in some situations when you're a woman who is explicitly seeking marriage and a family, not just endless casual hookups. So, to understand why, you first have to understand the mainstream cultural context of dating in the large Canadian cities. It's fair to say that Canada is, by and large, a liberal, secular, and highly individualistic society. Norms like cohabitating before marriage, delaying marriage, and children for careers, and more casual, driven dating culture are pretty mainstream. So, the way you're getting treated in America, probably going to be worse over there. This is not a criticism, it's an observation of fact. But for someone whose goal is to find a stable, committed partnership leading to a family, this can feel like trying to swim against a very strong current. You may find yourself stuck in a situationship where the lines are going to be blurry. Commitment is elusive, and you're left wondering if the other person is serious at all. They might be with you for the novelty. And you're going to experience that in a lot of countries where a lot of people will date a foreigner, hook up with a foreigner, sleep with a foreigner for a consistent basis during the time the foreigner is there, out of the novelty of this is a new experience, right? Not under the expectations of date to marry. You might go out there on a 3-month vacation, meet a girl 1 month in. She knows you're leaving in 2 months. She might spend 1 month with you on an affair that, regardless of whether or not she's single or not, you'll think she's single and be on this affair for 2 months. And you're thinking that this is going to be the one. And then when it's time for you to go, she's not going. Your relationship is going to end when you go to the airport, right? You have to understand, if you're not establishing those foundational expectations at the beginning of your contact with foreigners when you're going to a foreign country, you being a foreigner when you're going to the foreign country talking to the locals, you have to understand that you can find yourself in a situation where they're not committing. You're just there for the entertainment. So you've got to be careful with matters of the heart. This isn't even worrying about them tricking you and taking all your money. This is just you allowing yourself to be in a situation that's unfavorable to you. So people are often afraid of rejection and put up a lot of walls, leading to a dating scene that can sometimes feel very, very superficial. Nobody wants their heart broken. And a lot of people will push you away before you get a chance to hurt them to prevent themselves from being in a negative experience as a fallout. And this is where so many newcomers are going to hit the wall. They arrive full of hope, and a few years in, they have all the good jobs and decent apartments, but they're profoundly lonely, right? They're going to feel that they are on different wavelengths from other people. They're not meeting the ones that they want to look at. So the very value that they prize, which is family, long-term commitments, clearly defined courtships, can feel out of place in mainstream dating pools if you go there. So where's going to be a solution here? Let's talk about that in just a second. Ah, Steven says, I do plan on. So the way he words that is that he's willing to get into that hookup culture and potentially pick up some individuals. Now, I'm just gonna point out, Stephen, while you're out there hunting for beavers, okay. First of all, recognize that there are a lot of Canadians that are disliking Americans because of the decisions of Donald Trump. So if you go to Canada and you're hooking up with other people, I would recommend that outside of situations that requires your passport, that you not spend a lot of time talking about I'm from America. Yeah, I'm a passport bro, or I travel the world or something like that might be a good thing to say. Since you're only out there for the hookup and you're not there for long-term companionship and commitment, you don't have to really give them your genuine place of origin. But for the most part, that you sound like an American, they're probably gonna just assume that you're American. But ooh, I'm an American, especially right now during soccer season. Because I think Canada's going up against some people this week for soccer. You should definitely be careful with your ability to get out there and connect with a Canadian where they may have unresolved bias for Americans just because you're an American, right? You can be handsome, but they will turn you away like a bad zodiac sign because you're an American, right? And then you might win over some of them if you're wearing like the Canadian sports teams and go local team kind of thing. But if you're there and you're like USA American flag all over yourself and everything like that, you might also find yourself ostracized on that fact as well. So it really you got to be careful with what you're doing out there socially, right? But I mean, does this mean that if you're a family oriented person that you're doomed to be alone in Canada? Absolutely not. It does mean that you cannot use the same strategy as everybody else, though. So the solution is not to cast a wider net. It's going to be to fish in an entirely different pond. So if you're looking for a partner with traditional or family values, to look for a subculture in Canada, not the default culture. So if you go to some of the default cultures, you're going to get some of the default bias behaviors. You're going to get some of the default standardized results. So these subcultures are going to be very real and accessible, but you're typically finding them through communities, not just by swiping on an app. So here's where you're more likely to find the like-minded people. So if you're looking for faith communities, this is going to be perhaps the most significant one, whether it's a church, a mosque, a synagogue, or a temple. Religious communities are going to be one of the last bases of community-centered, value-based relationship building. Now, these are going to be the environments where shared values about family and commitment are often the norm, not the expectation. So people within these communities are often explicitly looking for partners to build a life with. And if you have a faith background, um, reconnecting with it upon arriving in Canada can be the single most effective way to meet people who share your core life goals. Now, immigrant communities, this is going to be for you, Stephen. People naturally seeking out others who understand their journey. Immigrant communities from more traditional cultures often carry their family centered norms with them to Canada. So, attending cultural events, joining community associations, or even just frequenting businesses in neighborhoods with a huge concentration of people from your home country can lead to organic connections. So if you're going to Canada and you find a place that has a lot of Americans in there, you might find you an American to hook up with. The unspoken assumption is often that dating is for the purpose of marriage, which can be a refreshing change. Smaller cities and suburbs, while not guaranteed, the social dynamic in smaller cities and suburbs can be different from the hyper individualistic, fast paced dating scenes of the metropolis. So, in these places, community and reputation can still matter. People may be more interconnected, leading to a social fabric that is less transient and more conducive to forming lasting bonds. So, hobby and interest based groups offline specifically is a very powerful, underutilized strategy. You joining a hiking club or a book club or a volunteer organization creates a natural, low pressure environment to meet people. And ultimately, if you're really good at what you do, wherever you are, typically the women come up and take interest in you because you're outperforming them. What do women want? Hypergamy theory, a man that does it better than her. The key here is going to be consistency, though. You're not just showing up once, you're becoming a regular face. And this allows friendships to develop organically, which is often the best foundation for a romantic relationship. It's how you build a genuine social network. The overarching strategy here is about being intentional. So you can't just passively hope to stumble into the kind of relationships that you want. You must actively place yourself in the environments where the odds are in your favor. And that's not something that a lot of people think about. And this is also going to mean that you have to be clear and upfront about your intentions, because in a culture where casual is the default, you need to be the one who sets a different standard. This doesn't mean being pushy on the first date, but it does mean communicating your life goals with a quiet confidence when the time is right. Saying something like, I'm at that stage of my life where I'm really looking to build a future and a family with somebody is not a scary ultimatum. It's an act of respectful interpretations and filtering of individuals, because those who don't have those same values are going to walk away. Likewise, I'm only here for the weekend, looking to have a good time with whoever I meet, could indicate no commitment, no strings attached, and no future goals with this person. And if they're interested in that particular type of endeavor, you've got the right person. Now, granted, you might have to try the quagmire approach since you're only going to be there for the weekend. And I know that a lot of people aren't aware of the quagmire's approach, but the quagmire's approach is a numbers game. If you ask 100 people in every building, at least one of them will say yes. If you go to 10 buildings a month or 10 buildings a day, you should get 10 women a day. Out of 10 women a day, you should have 10 dates at least in the week. And out of 10 dates in a week, you should be able to hook up with at least 5, which means you should have one person every day that you're there. So if you're there for 3 days, numbers game, you should get a no from 99 girls each time you get a yes. And you should get at least one hookup out of every 200 girls that you got scouts. 2 dates, 1 overnight stay. Ah. That's the quagmire approach, the numbers game. You don't take rejection to heart. You just like on to the next one. Ah, so this is going to scare away the people who aren't serious. This is going to change the opinions of the people who do not have the same views as you. And that's going to be exactly the point of being exactly clear about what you want. Interestingly, while dating apps can feel shallow, research from the University of British Columbia has shown that immigrants are actually more likely to use the apps than Canadian born individuals. So they aren't useless, but they must be used as a tool, not the entire strategy. You want to use them to meet people, but be quick to move the conversation offline and be ruthless in filtering for people whose profiles and conversations indicate that they share your values. Right now, the emotional toll of this search should not be underestimated because it can be the understanding of the culture, the landscape that you're going to go into is going to be half of the battle. You're not doing anything wrong, but you are simply looking for something specific in a place where it is not the majority, but being strategic and unapologetically clear about your values, you can absolutely find a loving, committed partner and build the family you dream of in Canada. Now, this is going to bring us to the circle uh, all the way around the beginning because building the family requires financial stability, which is often impossible without knowledge of the third pillar that we're going to be talking about today. Now, before we get into the third pillar, I want to talk to you guys real quick about these dating apps. If you plan on going to a specific country and you get on the dating app of that country, one of the things that you put into that dating app, special shout out to OG Kicks, is I am entering town on specific date that your plane is landing. And I will be in town until specific date that your plane is leaving. If you would like to meet, serious inquiries only. That should be in your opening scenario. People who are interested in meeting you in person should reach out to you inside of that window. Your profile should be hot inside of that window because anybody who's looking to date or hook up with a foreigner while the foreigner is in town, you can be specific and say, Stephen, you can be specific and say, here for a good time, nothing serious, no long-term commitments, blah, 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 serious inquiries only. And then the women that are only looking to hook up with a foreigner while he's in town will hit you up. And out of those individuals, the first thing you're trying to say is, well, hey, how you doing? Where do you want to meet up? I'm touching down by such and such airport. I can meet you by such and such location. If they're not interested in meeting you, it's like, well, I'm only going to be here for a few days. So if you want to meet up, I'll let me know and I'll talk to you then, and then move on to the next profile. And by the time you finish weeding through, you should have at least one person out the weekend that's going to meet up with you in person. And that might turn into something extra. Now, there is going to be a pervasive and dangerous myth that is particularly harmful to newcomers and people in modest incomes, because it's a myth that investing is a luxury for the rich. And we talked about this earlier today in the show, but it's the idea that you need a high paying job and a pile of extra cash to even think about the stock market. The myth is a trap. It keeps people who need to build wealth the most sitting on the sidelines. The people who need to build wealth are supposed to be the people who are investing in their wealth more often than the people who already have wealth. With their hard-earned money slowly being eaten up by inflation in low-interest savings accounts, being charged away at discretionary spending, entertainment, leveraging your psychological and emotional comforts for the fact that now, but you don't do anything to change it, it's got to change. So let's be crystal clear. A high cost country such as Canada, investing is not a luxury. It's one of the most powerful tools that you have. Just like investing in America, it's one of the most effective paths for a person on a low or middle income to achieve financial security, get ahead of inflation, and build a future where they are not living paycheck to paycheck, which is the best feeling to be in. Not having any unpaid debt or having any debt that requires debt collectors to call you on the phone and harass you is one level of financial freedom. But not having to live paycheck to paycheck, where 2, 3, 5, 7, 9 months of your standard of living is already paid, or the money to pay it is already there, set on auto pay, and you're capable of taking the rest of the money and doing whatever it is that you want to do within reason and not having to worry about where your money is coming from. That level of financial freedom doesn't come from living paycheck to paycheck. It comes from investing in your present and your future, right? So the financial pressure that we discussed in pillar 1 is going to be relentless. But if you only are saving, you're still losing. Inflation is going to be the silent tax that eats away at the purchasing power of your money every single year. Look at how we just discussed how the US dollar is 72 cents of the Canadian dollar, right? The only way that you can combat this is having your money work for you when you're not working. What we talked about yesterday was leveraged income, right? You want to generate returns that outpace inflation. That's what investing is. It's not about a get rich quick scheme or gambling on a hot stock. It's about statistically turning your labor income into capital that grows over time. So some people say, but I only have a little bit of money left over each month. You might also say, is it even worth it? Yes, it is always worth it. Stephen says, I wonder if Tim H. Coffer or Canadian Tire stocks pay dividends. I don't know. I haven't looked into those. That's a good question. It is a good idea for you to be looking into dividend paying stocks, especially if you're getting them from different countries. You can add them to your portfolios. One of the first places, since you already have a fintech app on your phone, speaking of, Stephen, today is a stock party. Today is a stock party. So if you haven't gone into Stack Shop and collected your stock, go in there and collect your stock for today, the free stock for the stock party. But then while you're in there, if you type in Tim Coffee or Canadian Tire, if there is an ETF for it, it'll show you that particular company. You click on it, it'll show you the history of the company, and it'll show you, as you scroll down, the cost per share and the dividend distribution, percentage yield, and the last payout amount. And that's what you're looking for, is the last payout amount. If there was a dividend distributed either last month or 2 months ago or whatever the case may be. Yeah, you spelled it right the first time. It says Tim H. Coffee, Coffee. Well, I mean, it's got one E, but I know that it's coffee. But if it pays dividends and you're interested in it, grab it. Grab it. I encourage for people who are starting out building a brokerage account to primarily lean towards dividend paying stocks first and then rebalance into growth stocks. I encourage them to grab higher volatile REITs and BDCs and then add their personal other dividend paying stocks in there, because those REITs and BDCs are the most volatile right now in the current market. Their prices stay low while we stay at war, and you can get more shares per stock than what you would have gotten before the war, than what you would have gotten this time last year. They're 50% of the value of what they were this time last year. And I think they're probably 75% less than what they were 2 years ago. And these are the stocks that after Donald Trump gets out of office in 2 years, because we're talking about the 2028 election, because a new president is supposed to be elected in the November 2028 year as the president-elect, but the president starts office January 2029. So in 2029, we're in 2026, 3 years from now, if we have a completely different president or if we have a completely different political party running as president, the market's going to be completely different. And if the market improves because we have a different president, because we have less volatility, then we will be in a situation where all the stocks that we're buying in right now over the next 3 years is going to go up in value in 3 years. So you want to buy into all of the ones that are sucking right now, all of the undervalued stocks that are sucking right now, because, and they're not sucking as dividend payers, they're sucking as share value. So all of these that are going across the screen right now, all of these are the ones that you benefit from financially, buying into as many of them as you can right now. The 17 that I gave you guys in the portfolio that's in the membership that you benefit from right now, buy as much of them as you can. And then when the market shifts in 3 years, you're going to see all of those stocks go up, and you're going to experience the growth of the share value and the dividend distribution from those same stocks, which allows for you to make a shit ton more money. So if you want to buy coffee, if you want to buy Canadian Tire, go ahead and grab that. I do want to remind you though, once you start exceeding 20 different stock options, you start stretching your portfolio beyond volatility. Now, what that does is you are no longer offsetting the volatility of the market, and you are only impacting and decreasing the average dividend return value of your portfolio. So the S&P 500 has well over 500 companies that all have different values, but the average of all of them is 10%. When you start getting to 20, 25, 30, 35 stocks, you start getting close to that 10% average, no matter what you do, unless you put like 60, a handful of stocks that's doing 20% return, right? But the dynamic is that if you did get the 54 stocks and you did go heavy on REITs and BDCs to keep you at that 50% return, and then you rebalanced against all the rest of the stocks, you would still be averaging something close to 12 to 15% return on investment. And all of the companies that you have that are pre-taxed stocks that won't have you paying tax out on the back end might benefit you a little bit on your portfolio. The fact is that your annual return on dividends is going to be lower than what it would be on selecting a specific 16, 17, 18, not more than 20 stocks that you want to have that are giving you the most return and the most growth on your investment. So you just want to take a look at which ones you grab. You don't have to grab the ones that I tell you to grab, but the ones that I tell you makes the most logical sense under the current conditions, because they've already tanked in value price-wise. They're not tanking in value dividends-wise. They're not slashing values every month. The share value is staying the same. But these are the same stocks that were 10, 15 years ago, almost $30, $40 a share, are now $2 and $3 a share. And when the market reverts, it's going to go back. And when it does go back, you're going to experience the growth. You get something that's on its way up. If you get something that's on its way up, even in Canada, it's got to go down at some point. If you get something that's already been going down and kind of cratering towards the bottom, that's something that you want to dive into, because that one will go up eventually. It's not going out, it's going up, right? So the ones that I got going across the screen right now, lowest they've been in years. The share price, not the dividend payout, right? Which means that these are going to be ones that will continue to increase in share value when the market conditions change, when war stops, when Trump stops making decisions that negatively impact these industries, when a new president comes in and stops rocking the boat, the confidence in the market will go back into these companies, and these companies will spike. And that's what you gotta pay attention to when you're grabbing your shares. But I said before that you should get investments in multiple countries, not be locked into just one country. So grabbing a couple of them in Canada, probably a good idea. Get some in Canada, Japan, Philippines, Cambodia, get some in plenty of other places. We talked about Switzerland, Denmark. There's plenty of places you can invest in. Once I get a few things taken care of, soon the majority of my income will be invested. Can't wait. What a lot of people say is I've got to first fix my life and then invest. What I encourage people to do is invest while fixing your life. Once you finish, it might take you a little bit longer to fix your life since you're not going all in with fix your life. The opportunity is going to be the difference between how much money you're going all in to fix your life in a short period of time versus how much money you could have put towards investing in your future while trying to fix your life and then still getting your life fixed. Because if you're all in on fixing your life during volatility, and then let's say the war stops, let's say conflictual decisions stop, and you haven't finished fixing your life, you would have missed the opportunity. And that's the part that I tell people, hey, if whatever you got going on, if you got to pay off a few debtors, if you've got to pay off a few loans, if you've got to, pay off a car note or pay off a medical bill or whatever the case may be, it is always fix and pay off the car, right? But you were, from what I understood, you were overpaying on the car to pay the car off quicker. You don't have to overpay on the car to pay the car off quicker. You can pay the minimum monthly payments to take the extra money and put it into the brokerage account. You can fix the car, fix whatever needs to be fixed on the car, which is another reason why I would a rental car and go out instead of fixing the car. But if there's that many issues going on financially where you can't invest in your future, instead of going to Canada on a vacation, you should take that vacation money from Canada and put it towards fixing your car, and then take the money that you would have been spending after you came back from Canada and put that into the brokerage account. And just don't go on vacation this year. You might, instead of saying I'm going to invest in my future later next year or whatever, you should say I'm going to go to Canada next year after I get my car fixed this year and take the extra money and take care of my brokerage account. You could, here's a funny thing, you could say, let me take $5 or $10 or $15,000 and put it into the brokerage account, and then the 10% return, take that $500 and put it towards fixing my car piece by piece. Since you own the car, you don't have to fix everything at one time. Yeah, when you start getting to that transmission, you need $2,500. Yeah, when you start dealing with headers, you might need $25,000 to $5,000. But you need an oil change, you just need $300. Whether they got to do a cheap, easy $30 oil change, or if they got to flush the engine out and redo it with full synthetic oil and charge you $250, you need $300 on the side for that oil change. You can do the oil change 1 month. You can do the brakes, rotors, tires another month. Matter of fact, what was it? February. I did the brakes and rotors, the pads and rotors on all 4 tires for $1,000. Right? Now, that's fucking expensive. But that's the first time I had to do the rotors on a vehicle in 3 years. But 4 rotors, and those rotors aren't cheap. They're like $150, $200 a piece plus labor. And then, so 4 rotors, and then the brake pads, front pads and rear pads. Topped me off with some brake fluid. I spent $1,000 on just that, right? Power steering pump, $500, right? So I know what you're talking about. I know what you're going through. But when people say, well, instead of me investing in my future, I'm going to put 100% of my money on this. I'm going to keep so that I can pay off. Because I know what you're thinking. Well, the interest on the car is more than the return on the brokerage account. So if I overpay the car, I can pay it off sooner and not pay as much for the car, saving money on the cost of the car. But you're dealing with opportunity cost. You got you a used car from a used car company that's got the interest rates baked into the price. Okay, you can pay it off sooner or you can pay it off later. But the fact is that the 15 to 20% return on investment for the brokerage account that you have with the stocks that I selected for you is the difference is the cost of doing business. You might be paying them like 10%. They might be charging you 10%. Hopefully they're not charging you 18% for the car note. But you've got a brokerage account that if you spread it out evenly, you're getting back 15. So in overpaying the car, you overpay the brokerage account. You overpay the brokerage account until the dividends from the brokerage account can pay for the car. You pay minimum balance on the car, and then you overpay the brokerage account. You know, that's how that works. Instead of taking 10 grand from your tax return and buying the car cash up front, you take the 10 grand from your tax return and put it into the brokerage account, and then take the brokerage account and start paying on the car note. Right? That way, your primary paycheck is going on the brokerage account, not the car note. Since you have such a concerning car note, you shouldn't be vacationing with extra money, because listen to what we're talking about spending for a 3-day vacation, $3,000 to $5,000 for a 3-day vacation out of the country. That $3,000 to $5,000 can rebuild the car. Likely that $3,000 to $5,000 vacation trip could actually pay off the car, so you don't owe any more money on the car, and then you can go to building up your brokerage account so that your brokerage account can pay for you while you're out of the country. Opportunity cost. And these are the differences in decisions that not a lot of people make when we start talking about whether or not we should take a trip, or pay off our debts, or invest in our future. But the faster that you invest in your future, those debts are debts that are going away. You've paid off your credit cards. You don't have any student loans right now, but when you start accumulating student loans, whatever you accumulate, if you invest the difference wisely, you're going to have those going down, because you're not going to forever get student loans. You're only going to get student loans while you're in college. Your car note is only going to be your car until you pay it off. These are depreciating debts. So you don't have to kill yourself with the depreciating debts. You can redirect your attention to appreciating your brokerage account, because as it gets bigger, it will cover your basic standards. It's going to eventually cover your monthly phone bill. It's going to eventually cover your monthly car insurance bill. It's going to eventually cover your monthly utility bills. It's going to, but that's requiring you to put more of your money there before you put it anywhere else. A lot of times, once you finish paying off your credit cards, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm going to pay off my credit cards and I'm not going to use them. I strongly believe that since you make more money than you spend now, if you had the money in cash to put on those bills, you should have charged those bills to the credit cards to show usage, and then pay the credit card down 5 days before the credit card rolls over. But what does that do? What that does is it takes all the money that you didn't need and put it in your brokerage account, and then all the money that you needed went towards the credit card. After that, the credit card's got like $5 or $10 at the end of the billing cycle. You pay that and then charge everything that you need to the credit card. You're using the cards every month. They're at a very low balance. The credit scores are fantastic because you have low utilization. You still have low debt because they're only reporting what's left over, not what you put on it. And then at the same time, you're still in a position to put more effort into your brokerage account than chasing your debt. So you got a car note, and you really got to ask yourself, because the car note is going to be once a month payments. Are they going to charge me a convenience fee to pay the car note with the credit card? If they're not going to charge you a convenience fee with paying a car note with the credit card, put the car note on a credit card. Right? Now, if they're going to charge you a convenience fee to put the car note on the credit card, you might say, no, let me just pay that one in cash. But everything else, You've got like a convenience fee for like $1.50 for the water bill. Okay, cool. So instead of me paying that once a month where I'm paying $13 or $14 for 12 different months of payments, let me just pay that water bill for 5 months and only pay that $1.50 one time. The convenience fee only hurts if I'm doing it every month. It doesn't hurt if I do it once every 6 months. Now I'm only paying like $3 a year for the convenience of charging the entire year onto my credit card, and then I pay the credit card bill for 6 to 9 months. Because these are revolving bills from services used, and I've overpaid on the service, so they owe me service that I haven't used yet. That is a security blanket. And if you build your life around that type of model, all of your bills are paid for 3, 6, 9 months. You're going to spend, you said 3 days. Instead, you might spend 30 days because your bills aren't due until 90 days after you get back. Which means you can take as much as you need to go out there because you don't need nothing when you come back. But it is exciting to feel that feeling that no longer do you not have a plan. So even if you don't take my advice, even if you decide to pay off your car first and then fix your brokerage, fix your car, and then after you get everything mentally secured, then you take all the extra money that you were putting on your car and you start putting it on a brokerage account, you can go. It's just that right now, the volatility of the market is in a place that it's never been before. And there's no reason why you should miss that because you're afraid of not paying off your car soon enough. There's no contract with a buy here, pay here place that is going to say that if you don't pay the car by this particular time, I'm going to take the car. No, you will continue to pay them for that car until the car is paid off. So even if it was supposed to be an 18-month contract and you're 36 months in, as long as you haven't missed a payment, they're not coming for the car. Because I don't want them to get that interest out of me on the car note no more. I want to pay it off quickly before I move. I still invest. Well, I understand that, but see that's why I'm explaining it to you. It's the cost of doing business. It's the cost of doing business. If you're afraid of how much they're going to benefit from your money, you're not benefiting yourself. Because when you give your utility companies 3, 6, 9 months advance payment, that's peace of mind money. You've already paid them for a service you never got, but you're going to get that service. The difference is now you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay them. But if you pay the car note, whatever you need to pay the car note, you take the rest of the money and put it into the brokerage account, you are building not only a financial blanket because you can forever cash out on your brokerage account and take care of financial expenses that you did not know you needed, but you also are generating a larger income that can help you pay off the car. You can generate a larger income that can help you pay for other things that you wasn't expecting to have to pay for, or rebalance your budget where you have a second income coming from your brokerage account. Your brokerage account gets big enough to where you don't have to invest in your brokerage account. You can just reinvest with what's already in your brokerage account. Because instead of taking $500 out and putting $500 in, you just put $500 less in and rebalance the $500 of dividends, and you're still building the brokerage account at the same pace that you was building a brokerage account when you was putting in that extra $500. I'm not saying that you're wrong for wanting to pay your car off as soon as possible. I had that with one of my cars where, I had bought the car. I'm supposed to be giving them like $250 bi-weekly, which is $500 a month for the car. Some people might think, God damn, that's a lot of money for a used car. Yeah, it was, especially since the transmission dropped on that bitch. But what I told you guys, that same place sold me a second car for $2,000 less than what they were originally selling it for. I got that car for $4,000. I'm still paying the bi-weekly payments on the first car that I got. Second car cash up front, driving both cars with no problem. I still have both cars. I paid off the second car. I actually held the second car on the regular payments for about 3 months longer than the contract was originally designed for. But I paid both cars off. Well, I paid the second car off instead of overpaying on the car notes. Because when I first got the car, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doubling down on the payments. I should have this car paid off in 12 months. But then when the car broke, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna give them the bare minimum because I'm not gonna give them the car back and I'm under contract. I'm gonna give them the bare minimum and I'm just gonna take care of it till I take care of it. Right? Now what happened was all the extra money that I was giving to them, I instead put it towards other things, which allows for me to do more in my life until the car's paid off. Worrying about how much, because this is the mentality that you got to think about, Steve. Everybody's got to eat. And that's why we identify it as a cost to doing business. The car gets you to and from work. The car gets you where you need to go to get money. The car is serving a purpose. It is a financial liability because of the financing, but it's in-house financing. So it's not like they're reporting it to the 3 major credit bureaus. So it's not like this is going to boost your credit score by paying it off sooner. So you get no financial benefit other than the peace of mind of knowing I don't owe them anymore. But you understand that the monthly payments that you got to pay for this car is the monthly payments you got to pay for this car until you trade it in. And when you trade it in, somebody else is going to pay the remaining balance on this car to your dealership. And then you're going to be paying them an extra quantity of money until you pay off that car. So if you keep this car as like the backup plan to whatever new car that you get, because I would recommend that you get a car 10 years younger than the car that you got, specifically because of the laws that are under review right now about fixing your own shit. I would get a car 10 years younger than the car that you got and use the car that you got as a backup plan when you get that replacement car, so that you always have an extra car when one of your cars is in the shop, right? You should always have at least 2 cars, one that runs and one that's being fixed, whether it's being general maintenance or major repairs. You should always have one that's running while the other one's in the shop. And if you have a situation where you got 3 of them, where one of them broke, it needs major repairs, you can't afford to fix it, one's in the shop getting regular maintenance that you could afford to fix, and the other one's your daily driver, that's like kind of the spread, right? You should always, like, I don't know if you guys ever watched those movies where like one of the protagonists in the movie goes into the barn or goes to the back of the house and takes his car cover off with this 40-something-year-old car, still got plates on it, engine still runs, nobody knew that motherfucker was back there. We're gonna take this bitch and go do whatever we gotta go do with it. The 2-3 cars in the front that the feds know about got trackers on them. We ain't worrying about them. We're using the one in the way back that nobody knew existed. That's the kind of stuff that you gotta be doing. But you can't do that if you don't stack extra stuff. You keep you one in the back with a car cover, always runs, but you don't use it as your plan B or plan C situation. Your plan A is your daily driver. Your plan B is your backup plan, but you always got an extra one just in case. Is y'all never traded in riding until the wheels fall off want a second car? Oh, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So if that's the case, you're always going to keep this car. There's no point in overpaying on a car. Matter of fact, overpaying on a car is preventing you from fixing a car. If you pay the bare minimum every month of what you owe on a car, and then take the extra money that you was on a car and put that to maintenance on a car, you can improve the mechanical condition of the car. And then the extra money you was going to pay on overpaying on mechanical improvements, put that in the brokerage account. Either way, right now, the market is in the most volatile position it's been in 20 years. Stocks are at their lowest. Dividends are not being slashed. The uncertainty of conflict with geopolitical trades has everybody running to silver and gold. So when the conflict subsides, that is when everybody is going to run back. Now is not the time. Let me get all my debts up before I invest in the market, because this is the only time during you and my lifetime where this shit benefits broke folks. We need to get in there right now and get as much of it as we can. And then after the volatility is over, then we can go and overpay on debt. Because if you lock in those 20, 22, 25% return on investment interest stocks that's sitting there right now, you will forever get that return on investment over the next 20 years. So if you have to pay that car for another year and a half, doesn't matter. But it might not be this type of volatility in the market for another year and a half. And the longer that you wait to get in it, the likelihood increases that you miss it because you're trying to pay off the car first. I don't agree with this particular method, but student loan, pay off the car. You've got student grant money returned on investment for the fall term. Pay off the car. You could pay off the car with the grant money and put student loan money into the brokerage. You get paid a car bare minimum every month till your fall term, and then take some of the return money from your grant full ride scholarship and put that on paying off the car, because that's free money. And then take the rest of the money and put it into the brokerage account. There's so many different ways that you can resolve this situation where you can right now today maintain the bare minimum and take everything extra and put it into the brokerage account, where you do not need to miss out on the benefits of the current volatility of the market and still be able to accomplish paying your car off before December. You don't have to miss the next 4 months worth of very, very beneficial stock prices to say that by the return happening on, I think, September of 2026, the return after, because you got, school usually starts on the second or third week of August. You got 2 weeks in after drop ad week, your refund happens. So usually the first or second week of September, that's when your refund's going to hit. Your refund is going to be the day that you can say, boom, car paid off, because your car ain't that much. I would assume that based on what you and I talked about with the car right now, you probably only owe $2,000 plus interest, and you're probably still paying pretty shitty payments on it, because you got what you could get at the time that you could get it. But at the same time, you know that if you got a $2,000 or $3,000 return from your school from just the grants and scholarships, that you could pay your car off. Why are you overpaying the car now? Because you didn't think about it. But then, because you're on a free ride scholarship, you got the good grades. I heard like everybody that crossed the stage was freaking honor students. So I already know that you have the capabilities to walk in there and still get the subsidized and unsubsidized loan from the school, and then be able to take that and put that towards, put it into a brokerage account and offsetting the difference, deferring payments until you get out of college. And this is why I told you to do that. Because since you wasn't diving into student loans, from what I understand, until now, you've already saved 3 years of undergrad. You have another 3 more years of undergrad that you can just max out all of your funding for your education, put it into the brokerage account, which means that you can pay off your car and invest in your future and finish college and go to Canada next year instead of this year. And everything that you're looking for to accomplish can still be accomplished by December. You just have to change the way you planned it. Just a little. Just a little. Just a little. Because truth. This is why we have these discussions. If you put more on your car repair and less on the notes, the only thing you would be saying is, man, I'm waiting on a stack to pay the car off. That's it. But even still, you don't have to put the stack on it. Put the stack card for peace of mind for yourself. You could the entire refund, put it into the brokerage account, and I can guarantee you that the type of refund money that you would have gotten from the school with the grants, the scholarships, and the subsidized and the unsubsidized loans, you would have had more than enough money to put it into the brokerage account, where the monthly payment from the brokerage account would have paid for the car. Again, paying off a loan is a tax deduction. So, car loan, stock market, if you claim them correctly, they cancel each other out. So do you benefit from paying off debt faster when you can use that debt as a tax blanket against the profits off of the brokerage account? No. It's the cost of doing business, because the difference between interest owed on a debt versus interest made on a brokerage account is the cost of doing business. But as long as you're making more off of the investment than what you're spending on the debt, you are benefiting. You're in a plus. And that's the opportunity cost you're not considering right now. Once that car is paid off, you don't have any loans you're paying on. You're not claiming that car loan on your tax return. So all you have is your W-2 taxes and your brokerage account taxes. But when you have a car loan tax deduction, car repair tax deduction, that's a whole different ball game. That's less money you got to pay Uncle Sam to make more money. when you have student loan tax deductions, when you're paying on your student loans. That's why people don't use their student loans. They don't think about this. You borrow all that money from the school, put it into a brokerage account. When you start paying those student loans back, the money that you're paying the school is not money they're going to tax off the brokerage account. They offset one another. That's why they call it a tax blanket, because what you owe in tax debt is offset from what they deduct from your tax bill from all the debt that you're paying back. You just got to talk to a CPR, or not CPR, CPA. Talk to a CPA, a licensed tax agent. They'll tell you, yeah. A lot of the stuff that if you do it differently, you can benefit from not having to pay the car off sooner. Right? Now, we got to bust another myth. The idea that you need a lot of money to start investing is going to be completely false. We have modern technology that you can start investing even in places like Canada with as little as $100 or even $25. The key is not the amount that you start with. It is the habit of consistency that you are going to build with investing. Investing a small amount regularly over a long period of time is infinitely more powerful than investing in a large amount of money at once. This is due to growth, where your returns start earning their own returns. This is a snowball effect. And the most important ingredient is going to be time, not a large initial sum. So the more money you're able to put into your brokerage account and the longer that it's going to be there, the more you're going to get back, as opposed to the more money you put onto the note, the less money you're going to save on the car. Because, if I pay it off 6 months sooner, that's 6 months less interest I got to pay. But I put this into the brokerage account 6 months sooner, and 6 months more money I would have made. Do the calculations on your opportunity cost. So how do you actually invest like this? Let's create some simple step-by-step plans that anybody can follow. If you open the right accounts, before you even think about what you're going to buy, you need to decide where to hold your investments. In Canada, for a beginner or someone in low to moderate income, the answer is almost always the same thing. You want to start with a tax-free savings account. This is in Canada, not in America. You might be able to find some in America, but this is specifically Canada has tax-free savings accounts. The tax-free savings account is the most powerful investment account for the vast majority of Canadians. The name is a bit misleading, though. It is not just a savings account. Think of it as a special basket. Any investment you put inside this basket, stocks, bonds, funds, gets to grow completely 100% tax-free. So when you decide to take the money out, you pay zero taxes on the growth. This is going to be a very massive advantage for any newcomers or those on a lower income. The tax-free savings account is often superior to the other common accounts. The RRSP, because of its flexibility, you can withdraw money anytime without penalties. And because of tax-free growth is incredibly beneficial, you can open a tax-free savings account at any major bank or at a low-cost online brokerage like Wealth Simple or Trade. So you're going to Canada, you can use Wealth Simple or Quest Trade to open yourself a tax-free account in Canada. Not too many people knew that shit existed. That might be a smart move if you were calling yourself trying to build yourself a trust and you open one of those tax-free accounts for the trust in Canada. You got to start looking at cross-country laws, because if you have a property in America that is under the ownership of a trust in Canada, which country is going to have jurisdiction over the property versus the assets, and how the capitals would be released if somebody tried to take litigation and dismantle your trust. You've got to prepare for how that works out. But step number 2, simple low-cost investment. This is going to be where people get paralyzed. They think they need to become stock picking geniuses. You don't. I've already picked the stocks for you. The simplest and most recommended strategies for beginners is to buy single low cost all-in-one exchange trade funds. An ETF is a simple basket that holds hundreds or even thousands of different stocks like the S&P 500, right? Instead of trying to pick one winning company or, follow the list, because I picked 54, a tiny piece of the entire market, which gives you instant diversification, so you don't have to think about which individual companies that you need to grab. But there are amazing all-in-one ETFs in Canada that do all of the work for you. Funds like XEQT, VEQT, or ZGRO. I'm going to try to grab these and put these into the thing for you. These are all tickers for ETFs that are all-in-one style ETFs that you guys can benefit from in Canada. These are all designed to be complete globally in a single purchase. And you are investing everywhere. Now, the best part is they're extremely low fees, often around 0.2%, which is 20%. And it is 10 times cheaper than the typical bank's mutual fund that charges exactly 2%. So actually, I said 0.2%, which is like 2 cents on the dollar, as opposed to, or no, 0.2% is like 2 cents on $10. That's probably that'd be a better distribution of it. It's like 2 cents on $10, as opposed to the 2% that you get from mutual funds. So each of the ETFs has a significantly different recipe, which different mixes of stocks and bonds benefit you so that you can pick one of them that matches your own comfort levels of risk. 3, you want to automate your contributions. This is going to be the secret to all wealth building. You don't want to rely on your own personal willpower to invest whatever's left over at the end of every month, which is one of the reasons why I continue to encourage you to put a lot of your standard bills on your credit card so that you can motivate yourself to take more cash and put it into your brokerage account, and then take your next paycheck and put it on the credit cards to pay the credit cards down, so that the credit cards are still at zero at the end of every billing cycle. Because when you find yourself with an extra $750 out of your monthly income that you don't have any place to definitely allocate it to because all your bills are paid for, you're easier and more likely to redirect that money to a brokerage account so that you can invest it somewhere to make money for you. And then when the next check comes in and you start paying down all of your credit cards to pay off your basic standard of living, you have zeroed out all of your debt, but you've put away $750. That's how you found your discretionary funds. Because if you paid all your bills off with your credit cards, you don't buy anything you don't need, and then you take the extra money and put it into the brokerage account. When you start paying off your credit cards, it's like, damn, I had an extra $750 last month. You have to pay yourself first. If you set up automatic transfers from your checking account into your tax-free savings account every single payday, it could be $100, it could be $50, whatever you can realistically afford without having to financially suffer until your next paycheck. Then you want to set up the automatic purchase of the chosen ETFs that you have. Without your investment, or within your investment account, you want to set up these investment options so that you don't have to worry about missing the investment windows. This is going to be one of those set it and forget it approaches that does two powerful things. It's going to ensure that you're investing consistently, whether you're thinking about it or not. And then it's going to help you take advantage of a strategy called dollar cost averaging. When the market is down, your fixed dollar amount buys more shares. When the market is up, it's going to buy fewer. Over time, this smooths out your purchase price and removes the temptation to time the market, which is always going to be a losing game for beginners. Step number 4, you want to avoid the trap as a beginner. So after you have a simple, effective plan, the final step is to know what you need to avoid. The path to ruin for low-income investors is paved with the desire to get rich quick or pay off massive debt fast. You must avoid certain things like speculative bets. This includes chasing meme stocks that you see on social media like Trump coin and Dogecoin, or putting a significant portion of your money into highly volatile cryptocurrencies. We already seen how that went south. High interest debt. Before you invest aggressively, you have to have a plan to pay down the high interest debt like credit cards. That you need to put 100% extra money on the credit cards, but you do need to have a plan to overpay the minimum balance on your credit cards to pay down your credit cards, because your credit cards typically has a majority of the monthly payment being interest, not actually the principal. So you do want to pay a little bit more than what they're asking for so that you can actually put a dent into the principal. Likewise, the car is a fixed amount, unlike the credit cards. The car has a basic amount that you paid, the compounded interest amount that they expected you to have over a period of time, and they divided that overall amount by the number of months they expected you to pay. So if they put you in a 24-year contract, or not a 24-year, 24-month contract, buy here, pay here. Have a car for $4,000 where they're basically making you pay $6,000 to $8,000 over the course of 24 months based on the interest that they're going to give you. They divided your monthly payments up to about $500 a month, bi-weekly $250 a month. You can afford that, but you're trying to pay $400 or $500 every paycheck so that you can try to pay it down faster. You don't want the car to linger where you end up paying twice as much as the car was worth in order to get the car, because you're trying to save the money on the overall final balance of the car. I mean, yeah, but it just it's a the a credit card is going to be something that's going to be a revolving debt that's going to continue to increase interest, where if you only pay the minimum amount, you're never going to pay off the credit card. But with a car note, no, if you keep paying on the car and never trade in the car, it will eventually reach zero. It's just not going to reach zero without them getting their money's worth out of the car first. He said the Catch Me Outside girl from the Dr. Phil show, Bags Barbie, had a meme coin. I remember that. I'm still laughing at how many people believed in it. They had the Hawk Tuah girl that got into legal action on that meme coin because she got involved in it. They put it up there, but they pulled the money out too quickly, and then the meme coin crashed. Fact of the matter, and then so many people lost their money in that situation that she got sued over the coin because they pulled it out too quickly. It's going to be a area, right? And that's one of the reasons why I tell people, hey, you got to look at the difference between the two. Some of it you will have to chalk up as an opportunity cost of doing business kind of thing, and that's why I tell you, hey, instead of rushing that car note, put more money towards your savings. And the only reason why I keep encouraging that is because there's always another way. There's always another way, right? And that actually puts you in a position where you're making more now and spending more later. He says, as long as she can still Hawk Tuah, she will recover from it. After she gets out of prison, she's going to do a lot of Hawk Tuah in prison for free. And they're not even going to reduce her sentence. So the guarantee that a lot of people bank on is paying off a 20% interest rate is something no investment can match in most scenarios, because the ones that I'm looking at right now are like 20, 22%, 23%. But when I put it into the portfolio with other shares, the portfolio itself is averaging 15%. So if you got a 22 or 23% interest rate on your credit card, up to 29% interest rate. If you got a 29% credit card for some fucking reason, bro, you need to make sure that bitch is paid off. But the average is like 20, 22% return interest on a credit card, and the brokerage account is doing like 15% on average from all of the 17 shares. You're typically losing about 7% of your overall wealth while you're riding that debt versus building up your brokerage account. But that ultimately turns into the cost of doing business, because that debt is lingering on a credit card, while the extra cash is going towards fast building a brokerage account during a time when the market is very volatile. And that's the difference with the opportunity cost, because the 20%, 22, 23% return on investment on a brokerage account right now, that is the only time in history that it's been this way, in recent history at the very least, that it's been this way, is the opportunity that you're taking advantage of at the expense of the 7% difference of the loss on that particular debt. So if you got a car that's 18% return or 18% interest on the car note, yeah, you might be losing 3% in comparison to the profit you're getting off the brokerage account, but you're locking yourself into 20, 25, 30% return on investment, which you're not going to get after the car is paid off. So when the car is paid off, you're not even going to be imagining the 7% a year that you lost on the car still being there versus the 20 something percent a year growth that you're going to be having on your brokerage account after the car is paid off. It's just, this is one of those long-term investment opportunities versus short-term gratifications. Now, panic selling is going to be another issue. The stock market goes down, it's down right now, and this is going to be the normal part of how things function. The biggest mistake beginners in the market drops, which actually locks in their losses. You must have the discipline to stay invested through the downturns. History has shown that markets always recover and go on to new highs. So certain stocks that used to be a certain price 30 years ago may very well go back to that same price within the next 30 years, but you are getting into it now at its lowest in history. And then when it starts rising, you will be benefiting from something everybody else missed out on. That's what I'm trying to get you to remember. Your passive income is going to come from the slow, steady compounding of your ETF investments. So over many years, this small, consistent habit can grow into a that provides real financial freedom, because the difference between other people's mentality with their brokerage accounts is that build up a certain quantity of assets and then sell a certain percentage of shares every year and live off of what you sold. Instead, you buy a massive brokerage account, you hold it, and you just live off the dividends. If you wanted a certain lifestyle that required you to build up $750,000 worth of assets in a brokerage account so that you could sell off 10 or 20% of that every year and live off of $70,000 to $75,000 a year, instead get the kind of brokerage account that's paying you $70,000 or $75,000 a year and never sell the principal and forever live off of the interest and will the whole platform to your kids or your ex-wife if you don't have any kids, or somebody, some best friend that could benefit from it when you pass, since you don't have anybody else to give it to. But the goal is to pass it on to the next generation after you've built it up. This third pillar is going to be the key that unlocks the other two pillars. Because without a plan to grow your money, the high cost of living will forever keep you on a treadmill. And the financial stress that it creates makes it incredibly difficult to focus on building a life and a family that you desire. It's actually negatively impacting you right now, Stephen, with your ability to decide to travel, because your first mindset is to rough it outdoors instead of having the comfort of being indoors just to save a little bit of money. But if you built the financial success that you needed, you wouldn't have to rough it outdoors. In fact, you could probably get driven out there, have valet parking, and then have room service on a penthouse suite or just have a complete Airbnb style apartment scenario where you got the place rented out for the whole month and the entire thing is covered. The difference in the mentality of stressing. Because if you're roughing it in a car, now you're trying to find a bathroom overnight where places might be closed. You're snowed in. You might be parking your car in a place where the police won't let you sleep in your car. You might be trying to pay for a parking garage and paying for a parking garage so that you can sleep in your car. You might as well have just paid for an apartment where you could have just stayed inside. Rent a room instead of renting a whole unit. There's a lot of different ways to get you some peace of mind and do things in a less stressful position. But the struggle mentality is that I'm going to grind out the hardest way possible so that I can still get a little bit of a feeling of accomplishing something different without spending too much money. Yeah, you should put a pin in that operation and build you the stability to go out there in big time. Right? By starting investing, even with a small amount, you are taking control. You are building your future when you are not just a renter in your life. You are owning your life and you're doing it while reducing debt, because long term, your debt is going down while your brokerage account is going up. So you don't have to rush to cash out on everything, but you don't have to linger either. Now, we've covered a lot of ground and it's been a dose of harsh realities. We've looked at the true cost of living that can shock you if you're unprepared. We've navigated the complex world of dating for those that are seeking a family. And we've busted some myths that investing is only for the wealthy and investing is only for people who've already paid off all of their debts. It's not true on either occasion. These three pillars that we gave you, those are the glossy brochures that are missing any of the information that I gave you today. They're leaving out all three of these pillars. Your financial reality, your personal relationship, your ability to build wealth, that's not in the brochures. The cheapest way to go with the least amount of money is the fantasy that's being sold, but the actual cost to get there and the actual cost to stay there is never documented in the brochure. The aftermath cost of your decision making is not put into the brochure. This is the lowest you're going to pay on any pamphlet, any brochure, any flyer, any commercial. Come live here. It's so cheap. Yeah, if you're willing to live cheaper than the locals. But if you have a standard of expectations that needs to be met, that price and your expectations are not the same. You have to make sure that you bring enough money to exceed your expectations, what you will tolerate, what you will not tolerate. More so to the magnitude of what you will not tolerate, right? These are not separate issues. They are completely intertwined with one another. The high cost of living puts immense pressure on your ability to start a family. And one of the best ways to escape that pressure is to build a financial foundation through discipline and accessible investing. After today's show, you inspired me to do a big transfer into a personal portfolio just now. Bro, I've been telling you this shit for the longest period of time. It took me 3 months to get you to open a damn brokerage account to begin with. I understand how you feel. I understand. But one of the things that you gotta realize right now is that when I started telling you about getting in here while it was good, you didn't see those stock prices. If you go look at Prospect Capital right now and Ellington Residential right now, you're looking at they turned off the percentage yield on the stock because the percentage yield is so fucking high. You got Prospect Capital is $2.14, $2.20 a share right now, when it used to be almost $4 a share. It is half of what it was earlier this year. When it was riding at 18% return on investment at the beginning of the year, it's riding at 22 or 23% return on investment right now because they're still over there blowing people up. They're taking all of the tenants and bringing them overseas. As long as they're sending soldiers overseas, real estate is going to lose profits. You now can benefit from real estate investment trust because there's nobody here that's paying rent that's over there blowing people up. Same thing with the BDCs. Same thing with the oil. Same thing, all of the stuff that I gave you everything that's directly impacted by the war, where the stocks are at their lowest that they've been in years. And there is absolutely no way that you should miss out on this because you want to pay for the car by the end of the year. There's absolutely no way that you're missing out on this, because the war could end next month. The war could end next month. All it takes is for them to blow up the right quantity of stuff and get an I surrender, and the war could be over before 4th of July, right? But all of the money that you're putting on your car, you might have your car paid off by October, but you would have missed out on all of the stocks that are available right now in June that are at their cheapest. And they're not going to be this cheap this time next year, unless Donald Trump does, unless he's on to next year, June. But with the Congress doing what they're doing right now, if in the event they pull the war budget and Congress forces America to retreat, which I've never seen that happen, but if that was to happen, where Congress forces America to retreat, that would be the only way that the war would stop. He said, I'm going to split it up 17 ways, just going to follow the membership ones. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you split it up 17 ways, the BDCs and the real estate investment trust are going to be post-tax money, or not post-tax money. Post-tax money, meaning that they didn't pay taxes on that. They haven't paid taxes on those, so you're gonna have taxation on those when you claim more taxes. But all the other ones are pre-tax money, meaning that the money got taxed. You got the other ones like Johnson and Johnson. You got the Shell, Chevron, Exxon Mobil. You quite a few of them that I put in there. What was it? Avino or Advigo, I think it was. The Broadcom, that's what it's called. Broadcom. I can't remember what its abbreviations is, but Broadcom, the tech company. Oracle for TikTok. All of the ones that I gave you guys, a lot of those they pay taxes before the shareholders get dividends, and a lot of those are going to be buy and holds that are not going to tax you at the end of the year. And then you're going to have your real estate investment trusts and your BDCs that are not going to that are going to tax you at the end of the year. But the difference is that if you divide it in 17 ways and do the distribution that I told you about, you're looking at 15% return on investment. But if you put 33% on each one of the highest real estate investment trusts, and then rebalance that into the other 14, you will find yourself locking yourself into the 20% return from all three of the highest paying real estate investment trusts, locking yourself into that return, and then rebalancing all your money into the rest of the portfolios. So even after the war stops, even after the real estate investment trusts drop from 22 to 24% to the newer after-war shares of like 16 to 18%, you're still rebalancing into the other ones that are still going to be negatively impacted by all the shit that's going on. And you're going to be able to get in when those are low and rebalance into those where the other 14, you'll be catching those while they're down. So when they do go up, you experience the growth and you experience the dividends. And the fact is, like I told you before, you're going into your fall term. If you start applying for financial aid over the summer for the fall term, they're gonna grant you for that. You got the scholarships, you've got this, you've got that. You're already in the system, but you're still entitled to student loans. You're still entitled to subsidized student loans, which are student loans that don't charge you interest or payments until after you get out of college, and unsubsidized student loans that charges you interest but defers your payments until after you get out of college. You take out both the subsidized and the unsubsidized, and then whatever you don't put on your car, I would say, fuck it, I'll just pay the car out bare minimum and put labs and everything like that. All of that stuff on a brokerage account. And fuck, anything that I can pay on my credit card, I would just put all the money I got from the school in September, put all of it into the brokerage account. And then just as the school asks for shit, charge it to my card and pay for stuff off my credit card and out of my paycheck. And that's just less money I'm adding to the brokerage account because I just dumped 10 or 15 grand into my brokerage account and threw it into real estate investment trust that's doing 22% return on investment, which is like $2,000 and some change a year off of the 10 grand I got from the school that I can rebalance into my brokerage account, where I could not afford to put into my brokerage account originally $200 a month. I just got all this money from the school where I'm getting $200 a month from the money I got from the school to put onto the rest of the real estate investment trust or the other 14 stocks that I have. And then you're going to get that in the fall term. You're going to do it again in January because you're going to be doing the spring term. You're going to be getting your financial aid set up in December. You're going to be qualifying for that for January. Whatever you don't use in January, you're going to do the same thing in January. If you do summer term, you get a third paycheck in summer term. So that means you're looking at getting almost $10,000, $15,000 every 3 months for in your 4-year. Every 3 months, $10,000 to $15,000 after they finish paying for all your school stuff, books and all. You get a big ass refund on the 3rd week of college every semester. And that means that at 30 grand a year, you're putting into your brokerage account. You couldn't put 30 grand a year into your brokerage account if you were doing it out of your paycheck, but you put 30 grand a year into your brokerage account for your student loans, and then you can just pay that shit back when you get out of college. And then if you're putting away 30 grand a year and you're going to be in college for 3 years, he capped you at 200,000. He capped you at 200,000, and 30 grand a year for 4 years is 120,000. If you spent 4 years in your 4-year, you would be doing 120 out of 200,000. But if you had $120,000 worth of money in your brokerage account that you owe the school, even if you were giving them $1,000 a month, you would be making what? $12,000, $15,000, $18,000, $20,000 a year off of that brokerage account that you could clearly give to your loan company without a problem. And that $18,000 a year that you'd be giving to the student loans, which doesn't have to come out of your monthly paycheck, would ultimately be tax deducted because you're paying for your student loans. So you could have paid your car off, whatever, you own it. Your student loans are going to pay for themselves because they're working for you while you're in college. When you get out of college, you don't have debt. It's just line items on your tax form. The debt on your credit report doesn't hurt your portfolio when you have $120,000 worth of money in a brokerage account and $120,000 worth of student loans. That's zero. You still have a paycheck above that, which means you make more money than the total quantity of debt on your tax return. Total quantity of debt on your credit report, right? There's so many different ways that you could do this, right? But so many people teach themselves and they hear from the elders, you don't want to have any debt at all. No, you don't want to have bullshit debt. You don't want to have extra debt because you borrowed money to rent a center to put rims on your car. You don't want to have extra debt from the auto world who put a stereo system in your car. You don't want to have unnecessary debt on bullshit where you took out student loans so that you could pay your girlfriend's rent because she doesn't work enough to pay her own rent. That's the kind of stuff that you don't want to do. You don't want to have financial loss debt. But you're paying for that car to get to and from work. You're paying for that car to get to and from school. The car does work. Just give them the bare minimum. Give them what they're asking for. Fuck it. And then put the rest of the money somewhere else. You know, fix it and then put the rest of the money somewhere else. And don't go on that trip to Canada right now because it's costing you too much money to go to Canada. The money that you're spending to go to Canada should be the money spent to fix the car so that the car is guaranteed to run for you so you don't got to worry about it breaking down. And whatever you didn't need to fix the car, put that in a brokerage account. The faster you build up your brokerage account, the quicker your brokerage account can pay for your standard of living. Once your brokerage account exceeds your standard of living, you got two choices at that moment. You can double down on your future by continuing to work and putting the money back into your brokerage account, or you can quit working and travel. If you double down, because you're 36, if you do this for 5 years, because it's going to take you at least 3 or 4 years to get out of college, but you did say something about going for a master's degree. It's going to be another 2 or 3 years for your master's degree, maybe even 4. You might spend a total of 8 more years in college. Years goes by. You got your bachelor's, you got your master's, you're done with college, and now you want to do something about it, but now you're 47. If you've been doing what I've been telling you for the last 10 years, you should have capped out on the 200 grand that Donald Trump is allowing everybody to get per year. And that 200 grand should be in a brokerage account. And that 200 grand should be getting about 15% interest, which should be giving you about $30,000 a year, right? Every year, plus whatever you're making on your job, which if you're making $40,000 a year, that means you're now making $70,000 a year, right? Every year. So when you get out of college, you can easily take 20 grand and put it on your student loans every year. You can work on whatever job you want to work on because you don't have the stress of my income must exceed certain amount of money so that I can pay for student loans, because fuck it. They tell me what to pay and I send it to them from the brokerage account every month, or charge it to the credit card and then put the money on the credit card next month, every month. Either way, your lifestyle is covered. By doing this, that gives you peace of mind. It gives you a lot of freedom. It gives you the ability to focus and be more decisive. When you're no longer living from paycheck to paycheck and paying down debt out of desperation, you can now strategize as to the best way to put your money in places where your money is making money for you. The debt that is temporary debt should never overrule the benefit of a lifetime of retirement money. And I understand things happen, certain shit comes out of nowhere, and instead of you making a payment on your brokerage account this month, you might pay for that financial inconvenience so that you don't have to withdraw money out of your brokerage account right after you put the money in there. I completely understand it. I agree with that. You're going to not put the installment on the brokerage account, but you're going to cover this debt. But guess what? If you already taken $500, $600, $700 a month, put it into a brokerage account, and this time an emergency comes up where you wasn't doing preventative maintenance, because the only emergencies that's going to come up outside of the consequences of bad decisions is going to be car repair that you should have already planned for, that became inconvenient because you didn't do anything about it. Like I drove a car with a bad transmission till it blew the engine. I could have just parked that car and drove the car that didn't have a transmission problem. Now I got to fix the transmission and the engine. But I had a whole other fucking car. So I just used the other one. Right? You know, same thing. If you wait until it becomes a problem, now it's a problem that you can't afford to fix. Because instead of a $2,500 transmission, now it's a $5,000 head job and a $2,500 transmission. So now it's $8,000. A $2,500 to $3,000 job just turned into an $8,000 job because I didn't do it when I should have. Right? So if you preventative maintenance, change out all your tires, put an extra spare in your trunk. If you're living that kind of lifestyle where you have flats on a regular basis, you might want to get 2 or 3 extra full-size rims from a local salvage yard, because even if they set the salvage yard on fire, the rims are still usable. You can go get a used rim for like $40 from a salvage yard, full-size rim for the exact same make and model of the car that you got. Buy 2 or 3 of them motherfuckers for $150, and now you got full size. You have multiple spares at your house. So if you get a flat, change it out. Now you've got the lifestyle where if you got a flat, you can put a full size on your car, take the flat, drop it off at your tire company that should have a warranty on the car, come back and pick that tire up later in the week. You don't have to sit at the tire shop all day long getting your tire changed. You can just pull up, drop that bitch off at the register and say, call me when it's ready. Because you've got a full size spare in the trunk. You bought 6 tires from them, they might give you a deal, right? These are the things that you do, preventative maintenance. But if you have an emergency, if you were putting $500, $600, $700 a month in a brokerage account, and now you got to go and pay for something with your car, you got $600 to pay for that, right? And this is what I teach you guys. And all of this comes from, hey, you got to set yourself up for Canada, but you need to set yourself up for America too, because you live in America, and America, right? So Canadian dream is not dead. You can go there. It has changed though. It's no longer a dream that you can simply fall into. It's a dream that you got to build for strategically and with your own eyes wide open. It's going to require a level of financial literacy that I teach you guys on a regular basis, and personal planning that was perhaps not necessary generations ago. Back when we were living from paycheck to paycheck, and that was the fantastic way to go, because credit cards wasn't widely used, debt wasn't widely built. The idea of having no debt because you owned your own house, you owned your own car, you could give your house and your car to your favorite child, they own their own house and own their own car. A lot of the times, a child's first car is a hand me down from mom and dad, because mom or dad would buy a new car, or not a new car, but a newer car, where they might have had a 10 or 15-year-old car. They buy themselves a 5 or 10-year-old car, give their kid the 15-year-old car, and now they've got an extra car in the house. You might have a 15-year-old car for mom, 20-year-old car for dad, and a 30-year-old car for the kid, but everybody's got their own car. Everything's bought cash up front. You have less stressful life. Yeah, you still got to deal with a lot of maintenance because those cars were old, but you have a less stressful life because you don't have 3 car notes that you got to pay for. These days in 2026, everybody's got a car on lease. Whether you finance it from a buy here, pay here, who got it dirt cheap from a damn car auction, or you're dealing with it from a dealership, brand new. You know, either way, you're on a contract with everybody. You're on a contract with the phone company. You're on a contract for your iPhone. You're on everybody's got you on some type of payment plan. Leave a payment plan alone and use that as your base standard of living cost, and then take all the extra money and put it towards building you the type of lifestyle where the next time you buy a car, you can buy that bitch cash up front. Use the extra money that the mechanic is going to get, or the dealership that's going to get from you, as the cost of doing business. Use that as a learning experience, that the next time I go to get a car, it will be cash up front. And I will be negotiating something off the price of the car, so that I get it cash up front, that I'm getting it for a good deal. Regardless of whether or not it's a new car, a certified pre-owned car, or a 20-year-old car, what matters is that this time I'm not going to be paying an arm, leg, and an eye for it for 3 years. I might spend 3 hours in the dealership getting a car that I want, but I'm going to walk out with no notes. They'll be mailing me the deed to the house. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that you learn, but you learn that after the fact. So you being 36, by the time you're 50, you should own something, whether it's a condo or a house, that's on a 30-year mortgage. That's probably the only thing that you're going to have on a 30-year mortgage, on any type of financial lien. You're going to own 2 cars, maybe 3, right? Depending on how the laws change over the next couple years about fixing old cars. And you're going to have a massive brokerage account. One of the reasons why you're going to be capable of owning your own house is because you're going to have a brokerage account bigger than the down payment on the damn house. You know, that way it's like, look, leverage this stock market, or leverage this stock position that I have to give me that house. You know, that makes way more sense. And one of the reasons why I tell you to do this, and I pressure this knowledge on you, because you don't have to take my advice, but I pressure this knowledge on you, because people who build their credit scores up so that they can qualify to borrow stuff from other people forget that each time you act hurts your credit score. You have to make sure that your financial situation is so secured that when you ask, they will not say no. You understand? If you got a phone company, they do a credit check on you to finance that phone. You check your credit score, and you will find out they have recently done a credit check to see if you could upgrade your phone. If they do a credit check and your credit is bad, they're not going to qualify you for a $1,500, $1,600 iPhone. They're going to see that the only store credit that you have might be $800 because your credit sucks. But if your credit is good, they'll qualify you for a $1,500 iPhone. Your phone company will do a credit check on you to finance the phone. So you got to make sure that you got more stuff there that they like to see, so that they never tell you no. Oh, I'm gonna take that credit hit for when I do that loan, but I'm only gonna take that credit hit because I'm gonna get guaranteed that yes. But you also want to build the kind of trust fund account that you can borrow against, so that you no longer have to ask First National and Bank of America and all this other stuff for money. You don't have to ask them for shit. You go to the trustee and say, hey, is there enough money in the account for me to borrow X number of dollars from the account? Yeah, sure. All right. And now you're going to sign a contract with your trust that allows for you to pay back your trust or not get dividends from your trust until the amount is paid off. You take that money, do what you got to do with it, and then even with interest incorporated into the scenario, that allows for people to be able, anybody who's on the trust, to be able to benefit from borrowing against the trust and then getting paid back, the trust getting paid back with interest before any more dividends is distributed to the borrower, which allows the borrower to not bleed the system dry, but it allows the system to prevent the borrower from relying on the three major credit agencies, which people don't think about. He says, I'm always going to fix old cars, even if it must be done by candlelight. It's not going to be a candlelight situation. If the laws are passed the way they're talking about passing the laws, the parts are no longer going to be accessible for old cars. And the parts that are accessible for old cars are going to have a $200 to $500 extra cost on those cars, because they're going to be creating a serial number exclusive authorization to the electronics on certain vehicles. So if you've got an older car from the 60s and 70s that doesn't run on any electronics, if the parts are still available for those cars, you can fix that car. You can potentially do an engine swap on that vehicle, an engine and transmission swap on that vehicle, an engine and a complete drivetrain swap on that vehicle, where you keep the body, but you upgrade the engine to something different. Those engines that requires electronics, those electronics are going to have certain serial numbers and codes in them that requires dealer approval. The dealer is going to be charging an arm, leg, and an eye for that approval. And if you can't afford it, now you've got a car you can't afford to fix. So either you're going to be experiencing discontinued parts just so that they can afford, just so that they can force the old cars off of the road to force people to buy new cars, or you're going to be experiencing prices for dealership authorized electronic improvements. It's not just going to be limited to the ECU anymore. It might be tied to the alternator. It might be tied to the ignition switch. It might be tied to the AC compressor. It might be tied to the throttle body. It might be tied to the OEM sensor, where now you got to call the dealership from your third-party mechanic and have the dealership charge him a certain quantity of money that he's going to charge you for them to give your computer the okay to start, because you put a different part on the car. It's not about doing it in the, I mean, I'll fix my car in the dark too. I'll take the spotlight right here and go outside in the yard and work on the car. But if the parts don't work, then the car won't run. He's out by a iPhone 13 for $150 off a friend. You know, I'm on it now. I hate iPhone, right? But if you were to get yourself a brand new iPhone, where are they at now? iPhone 2026, right? That's a $600 phone. You can finance it with your phone company, where you've only got to pay the taxes on that bad boy, and then they charge you like $35 a month for the phone, right? Or you can go and buy a refurbished phone off of eBay. You can buy a refurbished phone for like $250. The fact is that buying a refurbished phone still gives you a quality phone, cheaper than the brand new phone. But the problem is that the older phone expires out of the network faster than a newer phone, because every 5 years the phones must be replaced because they no longer are supported on the system. So if you get a phone that's 3 years, it's only going to be a year or two more before it no longer takes downloads from the network updates, right? He says, I will find dealership workarounds. No, you won't. That's what I was talking about. That's what I'm trying to tell you right now. The dealerships were going to the president, getting a law put in place to eliminate the workaround. Eliminating a workaround where certain mechanical parts that come from the dealership are going to be dealership exclusive, no aftermarket, which means that you will have to get approval from the dealership for the fixing of certain cars. Now, there are going to be some older cars that are going to be grandfathered in because those cars already on the road, aftermarket parts already exist. But once those parts are used up or disappear, because when we start talking about corruption, the same way they burn down quite a few junkyards to prevent people from benefiting from the salvage yards, getting parts out the salvage yards, they can pull all of the parts from certain places that prevent aftermarket stores from selling aftermarket parts. The thing is that at some point, because right now you're 36, you've got a car right now that this law might not impact that car this year, but over the next 10 years, you might find yourself in a situation where the next car you get is directly impacted by this, where the codes are not going to work anymore because you got to go to the dealership and get approval. Parts aren't accessible anymore on the older model cars. They've all been used up. And now you have to replace the car with another car. And the car you replace it with is the kind of cars that must have dealership approved parts on it. There's not always going to be a workaround. You're young, right? You're young. 36 is young, okay? In 20 years, if a law like that got passed in 20 years, you got no choice. In 20 years, a 15-year-old car would be a car 5 years after this law was passed, which means that the car would initially be locked in. You would be getting a 2030 car at 60. You'd be getting a 2030 car that will be locked in to the new laws, where you would be stuck with the dealership approval prices if the law got passed, because it hasn't passed yet. So there isn't always a workaround. The workaround that you have is building the type of financial legacy that supersedes this particular requirement, recognizing that there's probably going to be a $500 to $1,000 increase on car repair, because if this law did get passed, it would increase a dealership control over repairs on vehicles. You would have to factor in an increased cost of car repairs. If you did, you would be increasing your overall budget, especially for older model cars, or leaning towards trade-ins, or leaning towards leases. Whatever the case may be. However you go about doing that, you will find yourself in a position where if you put more money away now to afford that, you wouldn't have to worry about that later if it became a thing. You guys have to remember that it's going to be about choosing an affordable city over trendy ones. It's going to be about being intentional in seeking out your community instead of passively swiping. It's going to be about paying yourself first and investing $100 or more a month into low-cost ETFs, even when it feels small, or even when you feel like there's so much more debt that you could have been paying for at the time. Putting that money guaranteedly towards your future to change the opportunities that you can decide on in the future, because you can't afford a $500+ increase on oil changes and alternator repairs and everything to that effect today. But if you built the kind of wealth where that wouldn't be a problem to next year, 10 years, 5 years now, then you would be better off. Now, Canada offers incredible opportunities, safety, and quality of life that the envy of the world talks about on a regular basis, but it demands something in return. It's going to demand that you be prepared. Your hope is that the conversations, my hope is that this conversation is going to help you do just that. And your hope is that this conversation is going to give you the knowledge that you need to be successful. I want you guys to understand that it has armed you not to be afraid of what's going on, but prepare you to be realistic and plan for your own success, not just hope for the best. Because assuming I'm gonna find a way out of this before it gets there, instead of saying I'm gonna put the money where I need to put it so that I can afford to pay for it in case I can't find it. That's it. Plan A was, fuck it, I'll figure it out when I get to that bridge, right? Plan B is I'm building a bridge so that when I get to the canyon, I have a way to cross the bridge. A lot of people believe that I'll figure out how to cross that bridge when I get to it. Is the mindset that there's always another way and I will find that other way. But the other way is, in fact, building a bridge and bringing it with you so that when you come to a canyon that doesn't have a bridge in it, you've got a solution to cross the bridge. Might have cost more than what the other people would have been willing to pay at the time, but you can afford it because you prepared for it, right? That's going to be the difference. You have more options because you financially prepared for the worst. They have less options because they can't afford to pay for the things that you can afford because they did not prepare for this to become a problem. Because you got to understand, when the laws change and repairs cost more money, guess what's going to cost more money? Used cars. Because if they buy it out of an auction and they've got to buy parts to fix it, and the dealership's charging more money to clear the codes for the new parts that are going on the old cars, the mechanic that fixes the car is going to charge more money to the used car dealership that's selling the car. The reason why the cars are going to be so cheap, a lot of the used cars, is because they pick it up out of the auction for under $1,000. They fix it for less than $1,000, and then they charge you $4,000 for it, and they call those $5,000 cars. The buy here, pay here's $5,000 cars that charge you almost $10,000 to buy the car. And they'll talk you down. They'll put the price at $5,000, take it off the car, sell it to you for $4,000. You feel like you got it at a deal, but they paid $2,000 for it. So they made a $2,000 profit plus the interest that you're going to pay on getting the car. So you got it for $4,000. You're going to pay $8,000 by the time you paid it off. They made a massive profit off of this car because they only paid $2,000 to get the car, but they profit $6,000 off of the car. That allows for them to continue selling those cars. But if it now costs them an extra $1,000+ to fix the car, now that once $4,000 car might cost $7,000 or $8,000 in order for you to get it, which means they're going to give you a sticker price of $10,000. Likely go down $1,500 on the price and charge you $8,500, where now for that same used car, you're going to be paying $17,000 over the same 2 to 3 year period of time that you're paying for your current $5,000 car. You might still get a car in good condition. You might still get a car that'll live forever, but you're now spending in the new era $16,000 for the same car that you used to buy for less than $5,000. But being able to put your money aside so that your money makes money for you, you will be able to buy the car cash up front and get it at the new value and not have to pay those notes. That's how you prepare for it. Your workaround, knowing that they're going to charge you extra money on the car, you might say, well, instead of me buying a used $10,000 car, which in 15 or 20 years, it might be a used $15,000 or $20,000 car, you might decide to say, well, fuck, I'll go get me a certified pre-owned vehicle that would be a cheaper Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, Toyota Camry. That's like, at that time, $30,000 cash up front. And I buy that car, $30,000 cash up front, no miles, or no, 5,000 or 10,000 miles on it, cash up front, $20,000, $30,000 cash up front, out the gate in 2036. And I don't have any repairs on it, just regular oil change, tire change, brakes, rotors, tune-ups. And when the car starts becoming more of a problem than I'm willing to pay to fix, I can sell the car back to the dealership. 100% equity, fix up $1,000 car, put like 40, 50,000 miles on it, sell it back to the dealership for probably $15,000 towards my next car, where now I only have to put up $18,000 for the next model up. Where my car, being 4 years old, would be sold back to the dealership at 10 years old or 15 years old for half of what I paid for it. Or I can use that to buy yet another vehicle that is 4 years old, where ultimately I am buying the peace of mind to not have to pay to fix this motherfucker outside of minimalistic general maintenance. That's the workaround. Yeah, you're going to be spending more money. But I mean, if you're going to be spending, if the cost of fixing older cars is going to be month to month, year to year, the same price as buying a car that doesn't require to be fixed for 5 years, it's time to change our mentality to have enough money to buy the car cash up front so that we don't got to fix it for 5 years, sell it back to the dealership and get another car. And then let people who can't afford to do this figure out how they're going to buy my problem from the dealership when I sell my problem to the dealership and upgrade. I don't have to deal with that. I don't got to work around the dealership problem because I can afford to buy the car from the dealership cash up front. I don't have to work around the dealership problem when I'm going. I don't have to go to the used buy here, pay here and work around the dealership problem from Toyota, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, and I can just go to Toyota, just buy Toyota from Toyota. And I could go to Toyota, buy a car from Toyota, go to CarMax, sell it to CarMax, and then take the change and go back to Toyota and buy another Toyota. I mean, shit. You know. One of the things I also found is that if you take the car back to the original manufacturer with an antique that's in pristine condition, they typically give you more money for it than what they would have given you for a different model car. So if you got a Toyota, you take your Toyota back to Toyota, they're going to offer you more for that antique Toyota than what they would have offered you for a Honda or a Ford or a Dodge or a Nissan. People don't think about that neither. You buy anything you want from buy here, pay here, but when you trade it in, you trade it into the dealership that it came from and get an upgrade. People don't think about that. Now, I want to turn it over to you guys because we've been doing this for quite a few hours. We've talked about three massive life-defining topics. I want to know which of the three pillars that you were worried about the most when you were thinking about moving to Canada. Is it the cost of living, dating scene, or the challenges of investing? I think for Stephen, it was more the cost of living. I want to talk about it in the comments. Your stories and your concerns are going to be highly valuable. And this community is a place where we can have these honest conversations and insight as well as each other's observations, because while we don't all have to have all of the right answers for all of the things that we're working on, what we can do is we can prepare for what we wasn't expecting by having these open-ended conversations with other people, because we have a plan. Some of us do, at least. We have a plan. And until we get more information from somebody else that allows us to feel confident with changing our plan, we will stick to a bad plan simply because we have a plan before we don't have a plan at all. My goal is not to convince you to do everything my way. My goal is to convince you to always look for an alternative plan and compare the outcome of that plan to your current plan and see which one makes more sense. Yes, I'm going to give you opportunity cost information, because if you're going from struggling to not struggling, you will have to bite the bullet and pay the cost to be the boss. Everybody's got to eat. So you're going to have to give up some money in interest somewhere. You're going to have to give up some money in taxation somewhere. You're going to have to pay certain fees for the convenience of not having to put in the physical labor to get some shit done. But in the end, you're going to gain financial freedom. You're going to gain extra money in your savings, extra money in your brokerage account, extra money in your emergency fund, extra money to travel, extra financial freedom, extra peace of mind, which is what you're aiming for. Your goal is not to prevent somebody else from making money from you. Your goal is to prevent yourself from struggling in trying to figure out where the fuck the money is going to come from next year. That's your goal. How much they get off of you, because when I tell you guys to pay the utility bills 3, 6, 9, 12 months in advance, they're bankrolling in the extra money that they're getting for services they haven't given you yet. The money that they can do with that, invest it, make money for them, that's got nothing to do with me. What I just earned is the peace of mind that I don't have to worry about where the fuck I'm going to get money to pay them from, because they're already paid. I don't have to get back at a certain time and make sure that the money is available to wire transfer the money to those bills, because those bills are already paid. I don't have to put up an automatic transfer for an account that is already paid for the next 4 months. So the peace of mind of not having to worry about that bill at all is what I bought from advance paying standard utility bills that have separate service fees. Right? That's how you fix yourself. That's how you improve your ability to be successful. You remove the mental stress from you, and now you've got more time to focus. So that's all I got for you guys for tonight. I want to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I've been giving you guys this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by improving your financial life, but also by improving your decision-making skills. Because once you start paying attention to the things that are inside of your control, and then you start proactively putting forward effort into change the things that you don't like, you then can navigate around the things that are outside of your control, as we just been discussing for the last 40 minutes. Navigating around things that are outside of your control. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast for the male's perspective, you too can prioritize your 20 and 30-year goals. You can make yourselves higher value women by successfully re-engineering how you're going to get to your 20 and 30-year goals. And then while you're proactively accomplishing those goals, you keep your eyes and ears open for the right personality and characteristics, the drive, the ambition, the dedication, the determination, the integrity of the person who is capable of fulfilling his own long-term goals, right? And then look at those long-term goals and see how those long-term goals mesh up with your long-term goals. I'm going to be honest with you, ladies. A lot of the times, when a man asks a woman, what does she like and what does she want for a future? The first thing women say, oh, I like to travel. Women don't have money to travel. They would like to travel, but they say that they like to travel as if they've ever gone anywhere. But the average American lives from paycheck to paycheck and can't afford to travel. People say they like to travel and they like expensive meals and they like steak and lobster because in order to be impressed by the other person now has to pay for the lifestyle that you can't afford to pay for yourself. The problem is, ladies, is that when you put yourselves in these dynamics, you're putting yourself in a position to have a person who doesn't know who the fuck you are waste all of his estate on impressing you. A lot of women think that's the best man. It is not, because he's financially wasteful. He's capable of wasting his money on a stranger. He doesn't even know your last name. He couldn't find your middle name if it was in the middle of a haystack. He couldn't find you in a lineup half the time. He's after sex. You're after his wealth. Y'all don't care about each other's personality or characteristics. And the worst thing about this partnership that you guys partnership out of convenience is because he might be getting sex out of you and you're getting a lifestyle you can't afford for yourself. The problem with this dynamic is as y'all get older, when one of you stops performing, the relationship is no longer convenient. You stop giving a sex, it stops being worth him paying for the standard of living that you have. He stops making the money that he could afford to pay for the standard of living that you thought that you were going to get for the rest of your life. You no longer have the lifestyle that you want. The relationship is no longer convenient. Y'all are going to fuss, fight, argue, and break up. You have to have lifetime goals. If you want to travel the world, then your goal in life is to build a type of estate where you can afford to pay for your own travel around the world, which means that you're building up a brokerage account right now. You're investing in something right now so that in the future, you have the ability to retire out of your work by a certain age and then travel the world because you want to travel. That makes way more sense to a man than, I like to travel. Now, as if you fucking gone anywhere. And if you have, a lot of the times, it was in a 304 style where some guy spent a bunch of money, take you somewhere, y'all had a good time, y'all hooked up. That's what he did. He spent a bunch of money to hook up with you. That's not that's going to be gold digger mentality when a guy hears about that. You want a good guy, you want to travel, you want to build the estate to travel. I tell you guys on a regular basis that two people can put their money together and make $1 million faster than one person can do it. The fact is, her $30,000-$40,000 a year income, his $30,000-$40,000 a year income can come together and y'all can be millionaires in less than 10 years. So both of y'all are making $50,000-$60,000 a year. Y'all could be multi-millionaires in 10 to 20 years. Y'all in y'all 30s, by the time y'all are in y'all 50s and 60s, y'all can travel the world for the next 40 years if you just put your money in the right place. So ladies, if y'all are trying to find the kind of man to build a life with, you have to already have the mentality to save and invest and have long-term satisfaction goals, not short-term gratification goals. You want steak and lobster for your first date instead of wanting to know if this man has a satisfactory investment portfolio that he's working on for his retirement, a retirement goal, 401k strategy. What is his exit plan for getting out of the workforce? Like, y'all don't ask them questions. You got a job right now? Yeah, you do. What's your exit plan? And they're not going to know what the fuck you're talking about if they're not prepared. What's your exit plan? What process, what steps are you going to take between now and the time that you stop working where you can no longer have to work but still have enough money to cover your standard of living for the rest of your life? What is your plan? Y'all don't ask them in that. What y'all asking is what's your name? What job do you do? How much money do you make? How much money are you going to spend on me? I want to be lavish. Ladies, that's not beneficial to you. You don't want a man to waste money on you like that. I know a lot of women think, yes, I do. No, you don't. Because think about this. if 51% of his income goes towards your standard of living and you only benefit from 23% of it, 18% of the money is wasted every year. And if 18% of the money is wasted every year, that is 18% of money that could have went towards a lifestyle where you could get lavished every day, every year, 3 times more than what you ever thought possible for the next 40 years. So it doesn't make more sense for him to waste 18% of his money on you now to make you feel broke and special. Or would it make more sense for you to put that 18% somewhere where y'all can both be fucking rich and special for the rest of your life? Where your kids will be rich and special for the rest of life, where your grandkids will be rich and special for the rest of their life. Which one do you think is better? I just want to know. Make sure y'all put that in the comment section. Now, that's all I got for y'all for tonight. I want y'all to think about that, and then we're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to talk about some extra enforceable information. I want to give a special shout out to Steven, Michael, OG Kicks, Mr. Satellite, FX Trader. I appreciate y'all for coming to the show on a regular basis. I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not mountain